The ad read, "Wanted counselor for Rainbow Forest, summer camp. Must be good with children, dynamic and responsible." For me, Leo, a college student on the verge of financial ruin, it sounded like a lifeline. 3 months of fresh air, far from the stifling city apartment and the constant buzz of my debts. All I had to do was smile, organize games, and keep the kids from getting lost in the woods that bordered the city. It seemed simple, a summer idyll. On the first day, the sun filtered through the leaves of the centuries-old oak trees that surrounded the camp, creating dancing patterns on the damp ground. The air smelled of pine trees and wet earth, an aroma that promised purity. The director, a 50-something man named Anibal with a gray beard and a smile that didn't reach his eyes, gathered us counselors in the main clearing. "Welcome to Arcoiris," he said, in a deep voice that was meant to be fatherly. "Here, children don't just play. Here they learn to be better people. Discipline and camaraderie are our foundations." His gaze swept over the group of a dozen counselors, all young like me, their faces full of enthusiasm and sleepiness. His gaze lingered on me a moment longer than necessary, as if he were assessing my endurance. Then he assigned the groups. "Leo, you will be in charge of the beavers, children aged 7 to 8. Tomas will accompany you. He's a veteran here. He'll guide you." Tomas separated himself from the group with the fluidity of a shadow. He was a man my age, maybe a couple of years older, with a slim but wiry physique, like a long-distance runner. He had light brown, straight hair and pale blue, almost translucent eyes that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. His smile was broad, white, perfect. Too perfect. "Nice to meet you, Leo," he said, shaking my hand with a firm, dry grip. "It's going to be a great summer." His enthusiasm sounded genuine, but something in his voice, a flat metallic quality, made me withdraw my hand a little faster than necessary. The beavers were a group of 12 children, a rowdy swarm of energy, laughter, and curious glances. I introduced myself, playing the typical rookie clown to break the ice, and it worked. Laughter filled the air. Tomas watched from behind, arms crossed, and that fixed smile on his face. He didn't make any jokes. He didn't interact. He just watched. "You have to earn their trust," he told me later, as the children ran toward the playground. "But without losing your authority, respect is the key." I nodded, thinking it was sensible advice, even though his tone was that of a military instructor talking to recruits. The first few days passed in a whirlwind of exhausting activity. Sack races, crafts with pine cones, songs around the campfire. I was exhausted but satisfied. Tomas, however, was a machine of efficiency. Always impeccable, always energetic, always with that serene smile. The children adored him, or rather they seemed to gravitate toward him with a devotion that bordered on the unsettling. Especially the quiet ones. Lucas, a little boy with glasses and a shyness that made him almost invisible. And Sarah, a girl with very black hair who always carried a small stuffed rabbit hanging from her backpack. I noticed that Tomas had a special way with them. An arm around their shoulder that lingered a second too long, a whisper in their ear that made the child nod silently, a stroke of their hair that, although it might seem affectionate, had a possessive quality that made my skin crawl the first time I saw it. I dismissed it. It's his style, I told myself. Some people are more physical. But one afternoon during nap time in the large group tents, I saw him sitting on the edge of Lucas's bunk bed. The boy was lying on his back, stiff, his eyes wide open, staring at the canvas ceiling. Tomas was stroking his forehead with 2 fingers, a slow, rhythmic, hypnotic movement. He didn't speak. He just stroked. And he hummed something, a tuneless melody, almost inaudible. The scene was intimate, too intimate. It wasn't the tenderness of a caregiver, but the ritual of a priest before his offering. Lucas saw me looking, and his eyes, behind the lenses of his glasses, pleaded for something. Help? For me to leave? I couldn't interpret it. Tomas turned his head toward me without stopping stroking the child. His smile didn't change. Lucas has a bit of a headache. I'm helping him relax, he said, his voice a thread of poisoned silk. Ah, was all I could say, feeling like an intruder. I left the tent with a knot in my stomach. Was I being paranoid? Was I seeing ghosts where there was only a dedicated monitor? I forced myself to forget about it, but the seed of doubt had already been planted. The tension began to grow like poison ivy, climbing through the sunny days, poisoning the apparent normality. A week later, during an excursion to look for animal tracks, things intensified. We went in pairs, each monitor with 6 children. Tomas led the group, pointing out the marks in the mud with his stick. This is from a fox. This from a badger. The children followed him spellbound. I brought up the rear, making sure no one got lost. At one point, the group scattered a little to look at a bird's nest in a bush. Lucas and Sarah stayed behind, close to me. Tomas was about 10 meters ahead, with his back to us, apparently absorbed in explaining something to another child. I saw Lucas bend down to tie his shoelace. Sarah approached him and, in a whisper so low that it was almost carried away by the wind, said, "Did the man of song visit you last night too?" Lucas, pale, nodded without looking at her, his trembling fingers fiddling with his shoelaces. "He sang for me," Sarah murmured. "He said if I behave myself, he'll take me to see the red lightning." I froze. The air thickened around me. The man of song. Red lightning. Was it a child's fantasy? A secret game? But the terror in Lucas's eyes was tangible, a fear that did not belong to an 8-year-old boy. "What red lightning, Sarah?" I asked, trying to make my voice sound casual. She jumped, as if she had forgotten I was there. Her big dark eyes filled with panic. "Nothing," she said, clutching her stuffed rabbit to her chest. "It's a game, with Tomas." At that moment, Tomas turned around. His gaze didn't go to the children, but directly to me. Those pale, empty blue eyes locked onto mine. There was no smile on his face, just a terrifying calm, a silent assessment. I knew with a visceral certainty that froze my blood that he had heard everything, that he knew I knew. "Everything okay back there?" he asked, his clear, neutral voice cutting through the tension. "Everything's fine," I managed to say. The rest of the walk was a blur. My mind kept going back to those words, the man in the song. Was it Tomas? What did he do at night? The counselors' cabins were separate from the kids. Did he sneak out? And the red flashes. It sounded like a threat disguised as a promise, something sinister that my mind refused to fully visualize. That night, at the campfire, Tomas sat next to me. The children sang with another counselor, their innocent voices rising toward the starry sky. "Kids have incredible imaginations, don't they, Leo?" he said, not looking at me, watching the flames. "They invent stories, characters. It's fascinating how vivid their fantasies can be." His tone was conversational, but it was a warning, a retaining wall. "Yes," I replied, my mouth dry. "Very vivid." "Sometimes," he continued, picking up a stick and poking the fire, sending a shower of sparks flying, "those fantasies can lead them to misinterpret things, to see monsters where there are only shadows. It's important to guide them, not feed them." He turned his head and smiled at me. This time, the smile wasn't perfect. It was a crack in his mask, a grimace that revealed the darkness behind it. His eyes reflected the fire, but not its warmth. They reflected emptiness. "Sure," I whispered. "I'm glad we agree," he said, and looked back at the flames as if the conversation had never happened. From that moment on, I knew I was playing a dangerous game. Tomas wasn't just a weird guy. He was a predator, and I had entered his territory. Paranoia took hold of me, a constant companion whispering in my ear with every smile from Tomas, with every empty glance from Lucas or Sarah. I began to watch him, discreetly, or so I thought. I could sense his mocking smile when he caught me watching him from a distance. He was a cat playing with a mouse he hadn't yet decided to kill. One afternoon, I found an excuse to approach his locker in the counselor's cabin. He was out supervising swimming in the lake. My heart was pounding against my ribs. It was a violation of his privacy, but the need to find proof, something tangible to confirm my worst fears, was stronger. His locker wasn't locked. Inside, everything was arranged with military precision. Neatly folded clothes, an immaculate toiletries kit, some books on child psychology. Nothing out of place. I was about to close it, defeated, when my hand brushed against a small bulge on the metal ceiling of the locker. Something stuck there with tape. With trembling fingers, I peeled it off. It was a small, unadorned wooden box, about the size of a fist. I opened it. Inside, on a piece of black velvet, was a collection of small, innocent objects that became horrible in context. A button from Lucas's shirt, one of Sarah's hair ties, a baby tooth, whose, and several children's drawings. The drawings did not depict rainbows or houses with sunshine. They were abstract shapes, scribbles of black, energetic lines that twisted like barbed wire, and always in one corner, a small man with outstretched arms painted in bright bloody red, the man in the song. And then at the back I found the most repulsive item, a small old digital voice recorder. I turned it on. The screen lit up, showing a file titled C3. I pressed play. At first, there was only a thick silence, then a slight moan, the creaking of a mattress, and then a voice, Tomas's voice, but transformed. It was no longer the neutral-controlled voice of the monitor. It was a harsh, guttural whisper, laden with obscene intimacy. "Sleep, my little beaver. Don't cry. Listen to the song. See? The red flashes are beautiful. They're just for you." A humming followed, the same tuneless melody I had heard from Lucas. It was hypnotic and nauseating. Then a muffled scream, a sob that was quickly silenced. I turned off the recorder. My hands were shaking so much that I almost dropped it. Cold sweat drenched my back. I felt a gagging sensation, a visceral disgust rising in my throat. There was no doubt. The nightly visits, the man of the song, the red flashes. It was a metaphor for pain, terror, rape. I'd found the proof, but what could I do with it? It was my word against his. He was the veteran, the beloved, the efficient one. I was the new guy, the paranoid one. If I went to Director Anibal with this, Tomas would deny everything. He would say that the objects were fond memories, that the recording was a misunderstanding, a role-playing game taken out of context. He could even turn the children against me. The fear and manipulation he exerted over them were too strong. I put the box in my pocket, feeling its weight as if it were lead. I had to be smarter. I had to get irrefutable proof, something that couldn't be denied, and I had to protect the children. That night, I didn't sleep a wink. Every noise in the forest, every snap of a branch was Tomas approaching my cabin. Every whisper of the wind was his voice, singing his damn song. The next day, the camp organized an excursion to Mirror Lake, a large, deep body of water, an hour's walk away. The atmosphere was festive. The children shouted, pushed each other, splashed around on the shore. Tomas seemed to be in a particularly good mood. He was wearing swimming trunks, and his thin body looked even paler in the sun. He dived in and swam with an unsettling grace, like a water snake. I watched from the shore, the box of horrors hidden at the bottom of my backpack, under a towel. My gaze never left Lucas and Sarah. They were sitting together on a fallen log, far from the water, not playing. They just looked at each other, their faces masks of ancient sadness. I decided to take a chance. I waited for Tomas to swim away toward a buoy in the middle of the lake. I approached the children. "Hello," I said, sitting down next to them. "Don't you want to swim?" They shook their heads silently. "Lucas, Sarah." I lowered my voice. "Last night I dreamed about the man in the song." Their heads turned toward me in unison, their eyes wide. It was like turning a key in a secret lock. "Do you hear him too?" whispered Sarah, her voice breaking. Sometimes, I lied, feeling miserable for manipulating their fear, but with no other choice. What does he do when he comes? Lucas began to tremble. Sarah took his hand. He sings, she said, staring at the lake. And he touches us. He says it's a special game, a secret. If we tell anyone, her voice trailed off. What happens if you tell someone? I pressed gently. Lucas spoke for the first time, his voice a whisper. He says the red lightning will get stronger, and that he'll take our moms away. My heart sank. It was the classic abuser's tactic. Secrecy, veiled threats, isolation, using a child's love for their parents as a weapon. Listen to me, I said, looking them in the eyes, trying to convey a confidence I didn't feel. What Tomas does, the man of the song, is wrong. Very wrong. It's not your fault. Do you understand? It's not your fault. Sarah nodded, a tear rolling down her cheek. Lucas wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. Can you make him go away? The girl asked. I'll try, I said, and it was the heaviest promise I had ever made in my life. At that moment, a shadow fell over us. Tomas was there, water dripping from his body, creating a dark puddle at his feet. His smile was sharp. A secret conversation, he asked, his voice soft as silk. We were just talking about fish, I stammered, feeling like a child caught doing something wrong. How fun, he said. His gaze shifted from me to the children, and his smile widened a millimeter. Lucas, Sarah, come. Let's go look for water shells on the other side of the cove. The children immediately stood up, obedient, their bodies rigid. Tomas put a hand on each of their shoulders and led them away. Before turning, he gave me one last look. There was no anger in it. There was amusement, as if this were the most exciting part of the game. The trip to the lake ended, and the caravan of tired children and exhausted counselors returned to camp. Dinner was a somber affair. I could barely swallow. Every time I looked at Tomas, I saw the image from the tape recorder, heard his whispering voice. I saw Lucas and Sarah sitting at their table, eating silently, their eyes downcast. They were ghosts at a banquet of the living. That night, I decided I couldn't wait any longer. I had to act. I knew Tomas would make his nightly rounds. He always volunteered to check that the tents were properly closed. It was his chance, and it would be mine. I went to bed fully clothed. I waited in the darkness of my cabin, listening to the sounds of the camp fading away one by one. The laughter of the last counselors to retire, the chirping of insects, the distant hooting of an owl. My heart was a war drum. In my hand, clenched until my knuckles hurt, I held the small recorder. I had deleted the C3 file and put in a new, blank one, ready to record. The moon, almost full, cast a pale, ghostly light through the window. I glanced at my watch, 1:34 a.m. Then I heard it. A soft, barely perceptible rustling outside my cabin. It wasn't an animal. It was a careful, stealthy step. Holding my breath, I slid out of bed and approached the door. I opened it just a crack, just enough to see. There was Tomas. He was dressed in black, blending into the shadows. He moved with supernatural confidence, as if he knew every leaf, every stone on the path. He didn't head for the beaver's tent. He turned into the woods. What the hell was he doing? Without thinking, I decided to follow him. It was crazy, I knew, but the need to know, to have definitive proof, was stronger than my fear. I left the cabin, feeling the cold night air on my face. I entered the forest behind him, keeping a safe distance. He moved forward, with clear purpose, entering a denser area where the moonlight barely penetrated. Low branches scratched my arms. Dead leaves crunched under my feet, with a sound that seemed deafening to me. After about 10 minutes of walking, he came to a small clearing. It was a place I didn't know, a circle of bare earth surrounded by twisted trees. In the center was a large, flat stone like a primitive altar. And there, waiting, were Lucas and Sarah. They didn't seem to be asleep. They were standing side by side wearing their pajamas. Their bodies were rigid, their eyes open but not seeing, glassy. They looked like sleepwalkers. Had he drugged them, or was it the result of weeks of manipulation and terror? Thomas stood in front of them. He turned on a small handheld flashlight and placed it on the stone, pointing it upward, creating an eerie cone of light in the darkness. And then he began. It wasn't violent. It was worse. It was ritualistic. He knelt before them. He began to caress their cheeks, their arms, with that hypnotic slowness. And he began to sing. It wasn't the tuneless humming of before. It was a real song, with an ancient and disturbing melody, like a lullaby from another world. The lyrics were in no language I knew. They were guttural sounds, invented words flowing in a monotonous and oppressive rhythm. Shiraknal, Vornath, the eyes without light sleep. The blood sings in the darkness. The lightning waits. The children didn't move. They didn't cry. They were catatonic, their souls absent, lent to this horror. Tomas took something out of his pocket. It was a small jar. He opened it, and with his fingertip smeared a dark, sticky substance on Lucas's forehead, then on Sarah's. Paint? Blood? I raised the recorder, my fingers trembling, and pressed the record button. The little red light came on, a scarlet eye in the night. I had to get closer to get the audio clear. I took a step, then another. I hid behind the trunk of a huge oak tree just 5 meters from the clearing. Tomas's voice was now clear and crisp on the recorder. And the pact is renewed. You're mine, little beacons in the night, my harvest of silence. Suddenly, his humming stopped. His hands stopped caressing. He turned his head slowly, and his pale eyes fixed directly on the trunk where I was hiding. He couldn't see me, I knew that. I was shrouded in darkness, but it was as if he could sense my presence, as if my terror emitted a frequency that only he could hear. "Leo," he called, his voice calm, almost friendly. "Would you like to join us? The song is for everyone." Panic exploded in my chest. I turned to flee, to run back to camp, but my foot caught on a root. I fell face first onto the damp ground, the tape recorder flying out of my hand and disappearing into the undergrowth. Before I could get up, a cold, strong hand grabbed me from behind by the neck, immobilizing me. It was Tomas. His breathing was calm and steady in my ear. "Shh," he whispered. "Don't ruin the ceremony. This is a sacred moment." His grip was like iron. I couldn't move. I couldn't scream. All I could do was watch the scene in the clearing from the ground. The 2 children, motionless as statues stained with that dark substance, under the ghostly light of the flashlight, and Tomas's voice singing again, now louder, triumphant, as he pinned me to the ground like an insect on a dissection board. I don't know how I managed to break free. Maybe it was a rush of pure adrenaline, an animal instinct for survival. I spun around sharply, my elbow hitting something soft, his stomach, his groin, and I heard a grunt of surprise and pain. His grip loosened for a moment, and that was enough. I jumped to my feet and ran. I didn't run toward the camp. I ran blindly, in the opposite direction, deeper into the forest. I could hear his footsteps behind me, quick and determined. He didn't shout my name. He didn't curse. He just breathed in a controlled manner, like an athlete in a race. That was the scariest thing, his silence. Branches whipped my face. Brambles tore my pants. I stumbled, got up, stumbled again. My heart felt like it was about to burst. I knew that if he caught me there, in the darkness of the forest, no one would ever find my body. The accident would be easy to explain. The novice monitor, disoriented, got lost and fell down a ravine. Suddenly, the ground disappeared beneath my feet. I fell. It was a short but brutal fall, about 3 meters, ending on a bed of dry leaves and stones at the bottom of a hollow. The impact left me breathless, with a sharp pain in my ankle. I gasped, trying to catch my breath, listening. The footsteps stopped at the edge of the hollow. I could see his silhouette against the starry sky. He stood there, motionless, watching. "Leo," his voice said, calmly from above. "It didn't have to be this way. We could have been a great team." I didn't answer. I crawled backward, seeking refuge under a rock ledge, making myself small. They understand me, he continued. The others, the adults, they're blind. But children see the truth of fear. It's the purest emotion, purer than love. I just help them savor it, to grow strong in it. It was the monologue of a madman, but delivered with the twisted, convincing logic of a fanatic. He didn't see himself as a monster. He saw himself as enlightened, a teacher. The tape recorder, he said. I have it now. You have nothing, Leo, only your word, and your word is worthless against mine. I knew he was right. Without the tape recorder, without the box of objects, it was my word against his. And I was the one who had fled into the woods in the middle of the night. I was the unstable one. I remained silent, trembling while he stood at the edge, like a hawk waiting for its prey to emerge from its burrow. The minutes stretched into an eternity. Then I heard his footsteps receding, not hurriedly, but with the confidence of someone who knows he has won the game. I waited an hour, maybe two, before daring to come out. My ankle protested with every movement, but I could put weight on it. Climbing out of the hollow was agony. When I reached the top, the sky was beginning to lighten in the east, tinging the horizon with a gloomy gray. I limped back to camp, feeling like a ghost. I reached my cabin just as the sun was rising. I looked at myself in the small mirror. My face was pale, my eyes bloodshot, scratches everywhere, and mud from the fall caked on my clothes. I looked like what I was, a man who had been on the edge of the abyss. Tomas was in the dining room, pouring himself a cup of coffee. When he saw me come in, he smiled. It was the most genuine smile I had ever seen him give, the smile of a predator who is hunted and is satisfied. "Good morning, Leo," he said. "Looks like you've had a rough night. Everything okay?" "Yes," I muttered, looking away. "Everything's fine." The last day of camp arrived with a sense of unreality. The parents would arrive in the afternoon to pick up their children. The charade had to be maintained until the very last second. The children, including Lucas and Sarah, acted with eerie normality. They smiled, laughed, and played tag. It was as if the ritual in the forest, or my confrontation, had sealed their fate and their silence. They had given up. I was an automaton. I led games, helped pack up the tents, smiled at the parents who were beginning to arrive. Inside, I was a pit of ice and despair. I had failed. I had no proof. I couldn't report him. And if I did nothing, Tomas would continue. At another camp, in another city with other children, the nightmare would repeat itself. I saw Tomas say goodbye to Lucas. He bent down and gave him a hug. He whispered something in his ear. The boy stiffened, then nodded slowly. His mother, a smiling, careless woman, thanked Tomas for being so wonderful to her son. "It's been a pleasure," Tomas said in his warmest voice. "Lucas is a very special boy." It was true. He was special to him, his perfect victim. I couldn't take it anymore. As the cars filled up and the camp emptied, a desperate idea began to form in my mind. A terrible, risky idea that could destroy me. But it was the only card I had left to play. I waited until Director Aníbal was alone in his office, gathering up the last few papers. I knocked on the door. "Come in, Leo," he said. "Ready to return to civilization?" I closed the door behind me. My heart was beating so hard I could hear it. "Aníbal, I need to talk to you. It's urgent, about Tomas." His smile faded. His eyes hardened. "What about Tomas?" I took a deep breath. I was going to play my one and only card. "He abuses children, sexually. I've seen it. I have strong evidence." Aníbal didn't seem surprised. He leaned back in his chair, interlacing his fingers on his desk. "Leo," he said with a sigh, "Tomas is one of our most valuable counselors. He's an exemplary young man. Do you have proof? Anything concrete?" "The children are terrified," I said, my voice breaking. "Lucas, Sarah, he talks to them about a man of song, about red lightning. He visits them at night. He took them to the woods last night. I saw them." "To the woods?" Hannibal asked, raising an eyebrow. "And what were you doing in the woods at that hour, Leo?" "There it was. The trap. I was following him, because I knew he was up to no good." "You see," said Anibal, getting up and walking toward the window. "That sounds like obsession, paranoia. Tomas told me you've been a little upset lately, that maybe the pressure of the camp was getting to you." I froze. Of course, Tomas had gotten to him first. He had planted the seed of doubt. "I'm not crazy," I said, but my voice sounded weak, hysterical even to my own ears. "It's the truth. Ask the kids." And scare them even more with wild accusations. Hannibal turned around, his face no longer friendly. "Look, Leo, this is a camp with an impeccable reputation. We can't afford scandals based on what you think you saw. Tomas has a clean record. You're new, and your behavior, according to him, has been a little erratic. It was useless. I was alone, completely alone. So, you're not going to do anything?" I asked, my voice a whisper. "I'm going to do something," Hannibal said coldly. "I'm going to terminate your contract, and I'm going to recommend that, before you look for another job like this, you talk to someone, a professional." The humiliation was a physical blow. I had lost. Tomas had won. I left the office feeling like the world was falling apart around me. In the main clearing, there were only a few cars left. Tomas was helping load the last backpacks into a trunk. When he finished, he came over to me. "I'm sorry about your contract," he said, without a hint of regret. "I really am. I think you had potential. I couldn't hold back any longer." "This isn't over," I spat, lowering my voice so no one else could hear us. "I'm going to destroy you. I'm going to tell everyone." He smiled, that wide, empty smile. "And who's going to believe you, Leo?" he asked softly. "The troublesome fired monitor versus the hero of the children." He nodded toward the last car driving away. Through the rear window, I could see Lucas watching us. Thomas raised a hand and waved a cheerful goodbye. Lucas slowly mimicked the gesture. There was no emotion on his face. "They're mine," Thomas concluded. "They always will be. A part of them. What I've planted there will grow, and you're just a bad dream they'll soon forget." He turned and walked away, whistling his song, the same melody from the forest. I stood there, watching the last car disappear down the gravel road. The camp was empty, silent. Only the wind could be heard whispering through the trees, carrying away the echoes of laughter and screams, leaving only the cold memory of horror. I had gone to work at a camp to save my summer, and I had found hell. A hell with pale blue eyes and a song on his lips. And worst of all, what would haunt me every night in the stillness of my room was knowing that he was right. No one would believe me. And somewhere, in some city, Tomas would pack away his smile and his evil and prepare for the next summer, for the next group of innocent children. And his song, his damn song, would never stop. The man with the song was still free, and his symphony of silence and terror had only just begun. My parents told me it was for my own good. 16 years old, 2 arrests for marijuana possession, failing grades, terrible attitude. "Camp renewal will straighten you out, Marcus. It's what you need." My mother cried as she signed the papers. My father didn't look me in the eye. The trip took 5 hours. Colorado mountains, dense forests, a dirt road that seemed to go on forever. The driver, a burly guy with a scar on his cheek, didn't say a word. When we arrived, it was 4 p.m. on a Tuesday in August. The heat was oppressive. The camp was a series of wooden cabins surrounded by barbed wire. Not decorative fences, real barbed wire, rusty, threatening. At the entrance, a carved wooden sign read, "Camp Renewal," where young people find their true selves. The letters were worn, as if they had been there for decades. The driver unceremoniously dropped me off. "Cabin 7, ask for Coordinator Jace." He drove off before I could respond, leaving me with my backpack and the bitter taste of fear in my mouth. There were no offices. There was no reception. Just numbered cabins and a central dining hall with a corrugated metal roof. I walked toward what appeared to be the main building. Two boys, about 18, muscular, wearing black t-shirts that said staff, intercepted me. "New?" one asked. Shaved head, stone-cold gray eyes. "Yes." I was told to look for Jace. "Coordinator Jace," he corrected me. "We use titles here. It shows respect." His tone was steely. They took me to the main cabin. Inside, sitting at a metal desk, was Jace. In his early 20s, maybe 24, with a trimmed beard and an expression that mixed authority with something darker. There were no older adults, no director, no certified counselor you'd expect at a camp. "Marcus Chen," he said, without looking at any papers. 16. Petty crime, defiant attitude, disrespect for authority. He looked up. "Here you will learn discipline, structure, purpose. Do you understand?" "Yes," I replied. "Yes, what?" I swallowed. "Yes, sir." "Coordinator Jace, use it." He stood up. He was tall, imposing. "Simple rules. Obey orders, respect the staff, complete assigned tasks. Disobedience has consequences. No phone calls home, no visitors. You're here until you graduate. Some take 3 months, others longer. It's up to you." I was assigned to cabin 7, 6 metal bunk beds, 12 boys in total, ages 14 to 17. All thin, haggard, with that look of a cornered animal. No one spoke when I entered. One boy, skinny Latino, with yellowish bruises on his arms, pointed to an empty bunk at the back. "I'm Tyler," he whispered when I approached. "First time in a place like this?" "Yes." "Then listen. Don't ask questions, don't talk in formation, and never ever question the staff, especially the coordinators." His voice trembled slightly. "If they send you to reflection, just hang in there. You'll get out eventually." "Reflection? You'll see." He walked away before I could ask any more questions. That night during dinner in the dining hall, watery soup and stale bread, I watched the staff. They were all young. The oldest looked to be about 25. They walked between the tables with walkie-talkies, observing, correcting postures. Straight back, no talking. Finish your food. Their voices were mechanical, like programmed robots. A boy 3 tables ahead whispered something to his companion. Immediately, 2 staff members lifted him from his chair. "Violation, unauthorized communication," one said loudly for all to hear. They dragged him out of the dining room. His cries faded into the distance. No one reacted. Everyone continued eating as if nothing had happened. The first punishment I witnessed was the next day. Formation at 6 a.m. in the central courtyard. 50 boys in perfect rows, the sun just peeking through the pine trees. Jace and 3 other coordinators, all young, all wearing those black t-shirts, inspected us like sergeants. One boy in the front row, blonde, frightened blue eyes, had his shirt unbuttoned. Jace stopped in front of him. Name: Dylan, Coordinator Jace. "Dylan, your uniform is in disarray." "What does the manual say about appearance?" It must be impeccable, sir." "Coordinator, and you failed." Jace turned to the staff. "Instructor Kyle, proceed with level 1 correction." Kyle, one of the guys who had welcomed me yesterday, took out a notebook. "Dylan, 20 push-ups now." Dylan obeyed, lowering himself to the dirt floor. "Faster. If you stop, you start over." Dylan was gasping for breath, his arms trembling on the 10th. He stopped. Kyle kicked him lightly in the side. Again, from scratch. Dylan cried as he did the push-ups. No one intervened. When he finished, he vomited on the dirt. Kyle ordered him to clean it up with his hands. He did. That afternoon, during group therapy, circles of chairs in a windowless cabin, we were forced to confess our flaws. The coordinator present was a young woman, maybe 22, named Coordinator Elise. Black hair pulled back, scar on her chin. "Marcus, it's your first day. Tell us why you're here." Her voice was sweet, but there was something sharp underneath. "My parents thought I needed discipline." "That's evasive. What did you do?" "Marijuana, twice. And I was disrespectful." "Disrespectful how?" "I yelled at my father. I told him he was a failure." The other kids stared at me. Elise wrote something down. "So you're a cruel and addicted child. Do you admit that?" "I'm not addicted. It was just..." "Are you questioning my assessment?" She stood up. "Instructor Kyle, Marcus needs level 1 reflection, 3 hours." Kyle appeared at the door as if summoned. He grabbed my arm. "Let's go." Reflection was a small, unfurnished cabin. 4 wooden walls, concrete floor, a light bulb hanging from the ceiling. Kyle pushed me inside. "Sit in the center, don't move. 3 hours. If you move, it restarts." He locked the door. The silence was absolute. There were no windows, no outside noise. Just me, the cold floor, and the light bulb swaying slightly. The first 30 minutes were tolerable. Then my legs started to go numb. Boredom turned to agony. I shifted to adjust my posture. The door slammed open. Kyle came in. "You moved. Another 3 hours." He left. 6 hours total. By the time I got out, night had fallen. My legs weren't responding well. Tyler helped me walk back to the cabin. "I told you not to question it," he whispered. "Reflection is the soft punishment. If you make it to level 3, some don't come out the same." Level 3. Complete isolation, days, no light, no food, just water. His voice broke. I was there. 2 days. I saw things that weren't real. My mind broke a little. That night, lying in my bunk, I watched the other kids. They all slept in rigid positions like soldiers. No one snored, no one moved. It was unnatural. The second week, I began to notice disturbing patterns. The staff, coordinators, and instructors were all young, none older than 25. During a break, I asked Tyler if there were any real adults supervising. "Adults? Like directors?" He laughed bitterly. "There are no directors, Marcus, only coordinators. They run everything." "But who supervises them?" Tyler looked at me like I was an idiot. The system. The system supervises itself." "I don't understand." "The coordinators were students, like us. They graduated and stayed. Now they train the next generation of coordinators. It's a cycle." He said it as if it were the most normal thing in the world. My stomach clenched. "Are you telling me there are no certified adults here? Just former students?" "Shh." Tyler looked around nervously. "Don't talk like that. You'll get in trouble. The system works. You have to trust the system, but I didn't trust it." I started to observe more closely. During training, I noticed that Jace had a faded tattoo on his forearm. Cabin 11, class of 2019. He had been a student here 4 years ago. Kyle had a similar one. Cabin 7, class of 2020. All the coordinators and instructors had these tattoos, graduation marks. One night, after lights out, I heard whispering in the bunk next to mine. 2 boys, brothers, both here for stealing a car, were talking quietly. "I'm going to escape," said the older one, "in 2 nights. I know where the weak spot in the fence is. You're coming with me." "It's suicide. They'll catch us." "Not if we're quick. I'd rather die trying than end up like them." He pointed toward the door, where an instructor was patrolling outside. They didn't escape. They were caught before they could try. Someone ratted them out. I suspect Tyler, who had been listening too. They were brought to the center of the yard the next day during a roll call. Jace was furious. "Attempting to escape is betraying the system. The system brought you here to save you and you reject it. Do you know what that means?" The brothers, kneeling on the ground, did not respond. "It means you are not ready for standard re-education. It means you need level 5. A murmur ran through the ranks. Tyler grabbed my wrist, whispering, "Level 5. No one talks about level 5. The brothers were taken to a secluded cabin, painted black, with no windows. The box, they called it. They went in screaming. They came out 3 days later on stretchers, unconscious. When they woke up, they were different, obedient, robotic. They never spoke of escape again. I spent the second month in a fog of forced obedience. The routines became automatic. Wake-up formation, physical labor, chopping wood, digging ditches, group therapy, dinner, lights out. Any deviation brought reflection. I was punished 7 more times, 5 hours, 8 hours, once 16 hours straight. My mind began to fragment. I lost track of time. The days blurred together. During a therapy session, Coordinator Elise made me stand in front of the group. "Marcus, you've been here 2 months. Have you improved?" "Yes." "Coordinator Elise, do you still feel anger toward your father?" I hesitated. The truth was yes, but saying that meant punishment. "No, Coordinator." "You're lying." She snapped her fingers. 2 instructors grabbed me. "Take him to confrontation." Confrontation was a room with mirrors on all the walls. They tied me to a chair in the center. Elise entered with a tape recorder. "We're going to record your truth. You will say aloud every negative thought you have about your father until there are no more left." She pressed play. "I hate my father because..." "Say it." "Because he never listens to me." Again, with more conviction. "I hate my father because he never listens to me." Again, 10 times. I repeated it until my voice became hoarse. Then they made me listen to the recording on loop. 2 hours. My own voice bouncing off the mirrors multiplied infinitely. I hate, 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 hate. The word lost its meaning. It became noise. When I left, I was no longer sure if I hated my father, or if I was just repeating empty words. In the 3rd month, I began to notice cracks in the system. During trench work, a new boy, a recent arrival, still with a sparkle in his eyes, asked an instructor how long he had been at the camp. 3 years, the instructor replied mechanically, first as a student, then as an instructor in training, now as a full instructor. "But don't you miss your home?" The instructor paused. For a second, something human crossed his face, confusion, pain. Then it faded. "The camp is my home. The system saved me. Now I save others." He went back to work. That night, in the darkness of the cabin, I whispered to Tyler, "The instructors were like us. They got stuck here, and now they perpetuate the system, don't you see?" "Of course I see," Tyler replied. His voice was different, flatter. "And it makes sense. If the system saved us, why would we want to leave? Outside, there's only chaos. Here, there's order." I sat up. "Tyler, they're brainwashing you." "No, they're healing me." He turned away. "You should stop resisting, Marcus. It hurts less when you give in." Fear washed over me. Tyler had been here 4 months when I arrived. Now he'd been here almost 6. He was changing, becoming one of them. I decided I had to escape. I wouldn't end up like the brothers. I wouldn't end up like Tyler. I started planning. I observed the staff's routines, the schedules of the guard changes. The fence had a weak spot near the north woods, where the barbed wire was rusted. On Sundays, during personal reflection time, the staff was reduced. 3 weeks later, I was ready. Sunday, 2 p.m. I slipped away during personal reflection when the instructors were busy supervising activities. I ran toward the northern woods, my heart pounding in my chest. I reached the fence. The barbs were high, but there was a gap near the ground where the wire had loosened. I threw myself to the ground and began crawling underneath. The metal tore my shirt, cut my back. I didn't care. I was almost on the other side when I heard the whistle. "Escapee, North Sector," Jace's voice boomed over the megaphone. I climbed out the other side of the fence and ran toward the trees. Behind me, I heard footsteps. Lots of footsteps, not just staff. Everyone. Students and staff together, hunting me down. I ran for 20 minutes through the woods. My lungs burned. Branches whipped my face. Then I saw them. 4 instructors blocking the path ahead. I turned around. 3 more behind me, and between them, students. Tyler was there, his expression blank. "Marcus, this is disappointing." Jace emerged from the circle. "We knew you'd try to escape. They all do. It's part of the process." "Process?" I spat blood. "This is a cult. You're brainwashing them. We're saving them." Jace stepped closer. "And you'll be saved too, even if it takes longer." He snapped his fingers. Level 6, preparation complete. The instructors dragged me back, not to the box, to a building I hadn't seen before, half hidden behind the dining hall. "Advanced Realignment Center," the sign read. Inside, they strapped me to a bed. Elise entered with a syringe. "This will help with the transition," she said softly. "You resisted a lot, Marcus, but the system always wins. Everyone understands eventually." I felt the prick, then darkness. I don't know how long I spent there. Days, weeks, time lost meaning. They injected me regularly. Sedatives, I assumed, or something worse. Between injections came the sessions. They put headphones on me and played recordings. Voices, whispering affirmations. The system loves you. The system saves you. Resistance is suffering. Obedience is peace. Thousands of repetitions until the words were tattooed on my brain. Between sessions, they showed me videos. Other students graduating, smiling, hugging the coordinators. Some stayed on as staff. "This is what awaits you," Jace said in the videos. "Purpose, family, belonging. You just have to let go of your ego. Your false identity. Be reborn in the system." After each session, they asked me, "Who are you?" At first I answered, "Marcus Chen." Incorrect. More injections, more headphones. "Who are you?" "Marcus Chen." Incorrect. Another session, more videos. "Who are you?" I'm someone who needs help. Progress. A smile from Elise, but still incomplete. I don't know how many times they asked me, hundreds, thousands. My mind was a soaked sponge, unable to retain my own identity. The edges of Marcus Chen were blurring. Who was I before this? A rebellious son? A delinquent? Words lost their meaning. "Who are you?" "I am a product of the system." Almost. "Who are you?" "I am saved by the system." Perfect. Jace personally untied me. "Welcome back, Marcus. Or should I say welcome for the first time. Now you see clearly." They stood me up. My legs barely responded. They took me to a shower, gave me clean clothes, a gray t-shirt, not black. "Gray means transition," Jace explained. "From student to potential staff. If you continue to progress, in 3 months you'll get your black t-shirt. Trainee instructor." They made me stand in front of a mirror. The boy looking back at me was a stranger. Thin, with dark circles under his eyes. A dead look in them. But obedient. Meek. Broken. "Now," said Jace, putting a hand on my shoulder, "comes your first test. To prove that you truly understand the system, you must help teach it. Tomorrow you will supervise a reflection session. You will observe and learn how to guide others to salvation." I nodded, not because I wanted to, but because I didn't know what else to do. My resistance had evaporated, replaced by a gray void where my will used to be. The next day, they put me with an instructor during a reflection session. The student, a 15-year-old boy, new, had committed a minor infraction. Talking during dinner. 3 hours in the empty cabin. "Watch," said the instructor. "If he moves, add an hour. If he cries, add half an hour. Tears are manipulation. The system does not tolerate manipulation." The boy cried after 90 minutes. The instructor looked at me expectantly. "Marcus, what are you doing?" Something inside me resisted. A tiny spark, but the voice from the recording whispered in my head, "Obedience is peace." I opened the door. "Crying is manipulation. Half an hour more." My voice was monotone. The boy looked at me with pleading eyes. I felt nothing. "Good," said the instructor. "You're learning." Over the next few weeks, my role grew. I supervised more sessions. I walked between the tables during dinner, correcting postures. Straight back. Finish your food. The same orders I had been given. Now I was giving them. I felt not proud but not guilty either. I felt nothing. A floating emptiness. Jace called me into his office 2 months later. "Marcus, you've progressed faster than expected. Your transformation is exemplary." He pulled out a folded black t-shirt. "Instructor in training. Starting today, you will lead group therapy sessions, supervise punishments, and assist with new students." He handed me the shirt. "The system trusts you." I put on the shirt. The black felt heavy. Final. "One last thing," Jace said. "To complete your transformation, you must supervise a level 5 session. In the box. It is the ultimate test that you understand the system in its entirety." The next day, I was assigned a student for level 5. His crime: attempting to contact his family during trench work. He had stolen a cell phone from an instructor, an act of extreme betrayal. We took him, me and 2 other instructors, to the box, the black windowless cabin. Inside, total darkness, a metal chair in the center, restraints on the arms. 3 days, said the senior instructor. No light, no food, only water every 12 hours. If he screams, ignore him. If he begs, ignore him. The system will save him through the void. The student, no more than 16, my age when I arrived, looked at me as we tied him up. "Please," he whispered, "don't do this. You were like me, I remember. I saw you when you arrived. You were human." His words struck something deep, a distant echo. Fragmented images. My mother crying, my father looking away, the car ride. Marcus Chen, the rebellious boy. Who was that? I couldn't quite remember. "I'm sorry," I said. My voice sounded hollow. "The system knows what's best." We closed the door. We left him in total darkness. For the next 3 days, I heard his muffled cries as I passed by the box. At first, he begged. Then he cried. Then he sang children's songs, as if trying to hold on to something real. Then silence. When we took him out, he was unconscious. He woke up 6 hours later. His eyes were empty. "Thank you," he murmured. "The system saved me." He smiled. An empty smile. I smiled too. "Yes, it saved you." 6 more months passed. I became a full instructor. Black t-shirt, walkie-talkie, authority over new students. I supervised training sessions, led group therapy, administered punishments. I was efficient. I never questioned. Orders flowed automatically. Tyler became an instructor too. We worked together frequently. One afternoon, after a particularly tough session with a resistant student, I asked him, "Do you remember what you were like before you got here?" He looked at me confused. "Before? There was no before. There was only chaos. The system shaped me. It gave me purpose." He spoke as if reciting from memory. Maybe he was. Maybe I was too. A new student arrived on a Tuesday in March, 16 years old. Arrested for marijuana possession, defiant attitude. I was assigned as his primary instructor. "I'm Marcus," I introduced myself. "No, that was wrong. I'm Instructor Marcus. I'm going to guide you through your transformation." The boy looked at me with those eyes full of fire. "Fuck you. My parents will get me out of here in a week." I smiled. I had heard that before, many times. From my own mouth, perhaps, in another life. "There's no way out except through the system, but don't worry. I'll teach you. Everyone learns eventually." I took him to his cabin. Cabin 7, my old cabin. My old bunk was now occupied by another boy. Everything was cyclical. During his first group therapy session, the new student, his name was Daniel, refused to participate. "I'm not going to confess shit. This is illegal. It's abuse." Coordinator Elise looked at me. "Instructor Marcus, Daniel needs reflection. Level 1, 3 hours. Can you supervise?" "Of course, Coordinator." I stood up. "Come on, Daniel." I took him to the reflection cabin, the same one where I had spent so many hours. I opened the door. "Sit in the center, don't move. 3 hours, starting now. This is crazy, he shouted. You're a prisoner too, don't you see? I closed the door without answering. His shouts faded away. I sat outside with the walkie-talkie, timing him. 40 minutes in, the door rattled. He was moving. I gave him 30 more minutes. When he came out, he was shaking. You're a monster, he spat. You're all monsters. No, I replied calmly. We are saved. And so will you be. That night, lying in my new room, instructors had private rooms in the staff cabin. I stared at the ceiling. Something in Daniel's words resonated, a distant echo. You're a prisoner too. Was I? I had freedom of movement within the camp. I had authority, purpose. But I'd never left the camp in 8 months. I'd never called my family. In fact, I barely remembered their faces. My mother crying was a blurry image. My father, a shadow. I got up and walked to the window. The barbed wire fence glistened in the moonlight. I'd never looked at it closely from this side. I approached it during a night patrol. The wires were taut, new in some sections, constantly repaired, designed to keep people out as well as in. Can't sleep, Instructor Marcus. Jace appeared behind me, his walkie-talkie crackling. Just doing my rounds, Coordinator. Good. Vigilance is key. He stood next to me, looking at the fence. Sometimes new instructors have doubts. It's normal. The transition from saved to savior is complex. He glanced at me. But you trust the system, right? Of course. Good. He smiled. Because the system loves you, Marcus. It gave you a home when your family rejected you. It gave you purpose when you were lost. Why would you want to leave that? I wouldn't, I replied automatically. Exactly. He patted my shoulder. Now get some rest. 3 new students are arriving tomorrow. We need to be ready. I went back to my room, but I didn't sleep. Jace's question echoed in my mind. Why would you want to leave that? I couldn't formulate an answer. My mind felt like a room with all the doors closed. I knew there was something behind them. Memories, identity, resistance. But the handles wouldn't turn. Months passed. Spring turned to summer. I supervised dozens of students. Some transformed quickly, obedient within weeks. Others required months, multiple sessions in the box. Everyone eventually gave in. The system always won. Daniel, the boy who called me a monster, became an instructor in training after 5 months. His resistance had been strong, but the box broke him. Now he worked alongside me, administering the same punishments he had received. We never talked about before. Before didn't exist. One day in August, exactly 1 year since my arrival, although I wasn't keeping track, Jace called me into his office. Marcus, you have been exemplary, the best instructor in your cohort. The new students respond well to you. Your transformation is a model. He took something out of his desk, a tattoo needle and black ink. It's time for your official graduation, the tattoo. My heart, which had been dormant for so long, leapt. The tattoo, the permanent mark. Hut 7, class of 2024. My name written on my skin, binding me to the system forever. Extend your arm. I did so without thinking. Jace prepared the needle. The buzz filled the office. The tip touched my skin. It hurt. Black ink flowing under the epidermis. Permanent. Indelible. As he worked, I asked, Coordinator Jace, do you ever think about leaving? His hand paused. He looked at me with sharp eyes. Why would you ask that? Curiosity. Curiosity about life outside the system is the first sign of regression, Instructor Marcus. Do you need a reaffirmation session? No, Coordinator. My apologies. He continued tattooing. When he finished, my arm displayed the words in fresh ink. Cabin 7, Class 2024, Eternal System. I didn't remember Eternal System being on the other tattoos. Maybe it was new. You are now officially part of the legacy, Jace said. The students you guided will remember you. And when they become instructors, they will remember your teaching. The cycle continues, eternally. Eternally, I repeated. That night, in my room, I looked at the tattoo. The skin was red and swollen. The black letters screamed possession, belonging, ownership. I felt trapped. But that word didn't make sense. The system didn't trap. The system saved, right? Weeks passed. My routine continued. Training, therapy, punishment, supervision, automatic, robotic. One afternoon while working in the trenches, a new student who had just arrived yesterday asked me, "How long have you been here?" I opened my mouth to answer. A year. No, longer. 13 months, 14. Time was blurred. Long enough to understand the system, I finally replied. But don't you miss home? The question hit me like a punch. Home. Where was that? Fragmented images, a kitchen smelling of home cooking, a room with band posters, a female voice calling me to dinner. Marcus, dinner's ready. My mother. Her name was... I couldn't remember. No, I lied. The camp is my home. You look sad, said the student. Shut up and work. My voice came out harsher than I intended. The student backed away, frightened. Good. Fear kept order. But that night, lying in the dark, the images returned. My mother crying. My father not looking at me. The car driving away. It's for your own good, Marcus. Was it? Had this place been my salvation or my damnation? I closed my eyes, trying to sleep. But the voices whispered. Not the recordings. Real voices. Memories. I love you, son. We're worried about you. We just want you to be okay. I sat up abruptly, sweating. When was the last time I had thought of my parents as people? When had I felt anything for them beyond a gray emptiness? I left the room. The camp was silent. 2 a.m. I walked to the north fence where I had tried to escape months ago, a year ago. I stood in front of the barbed wire, glistening under the stars. Instructor Marcus, a voice behind me. It was Daniel, also an instructor now, also sleepless. What are you doing here? Just keeping watch. Or thinking about leaving. His voice was flat, but there was a hint of something underneath. Irony. Hope. Of course not. I come here sometimes too, he admitted, moving closer. I look at the fence and wonder what's on the other side. Then I remember chaos, pain, the world that hurt me. He paused. The system saved us from that. Yes, I said. But my voice lacked conviction. Daniel stared at me. For a moment, his eyes reflected something human. Pain, confusion. Then it faded. We should go back. The night watch will notice our absence. We returned in silence. The days continued. Training, therapy, punishments. But something had changed in me. A microscopic crack in the armor of obedience. I began to notice things I had ignored. Students crying silently during dinner. Instructors with trembling hands. Coordinators with glassy eyes. We were all broken. Only some admitted it, and others had buried it so deep they no longer knew where to look. During group therapy, one student asked, "What happens if we complete the program? Do we go home?" Coordinator Elise smiled. Some students choose to return to their families. Others discover that their true family is here, that their true purpose is to help the system. Those graduate to staff. But can we choose? The student pressed. Of course. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. The system respects free will, as long as you choose correctly. No one asked what correctly meant. We all knew. Choosing to leave was choosing chaos. The system made that clear in every session, every punishment, every whisper on the recordings. That night, I searched my room for something. I didn't know what. A connection to who I had been. I found my original backpack buried in the closet. I opened it. Old clothes, a crumpled photo. It was me with my parents in a park, everyone smiling. I must have been 14. My mother was hugging me. My father had his hand on my shoulder. I stared at the photo for an hour. The faces were strange and familiar at the same time. Marcus Chen, my mother had written on the back. Family Day, June 2022. 2 years before I got here, what had happened to that boy in the photo? Where was he now? I looked in the mirror. The boy reflected back was thin, with dark circles under his eyes, death in his gaze. Black t-shirt, tattoo on his arm. Instructor Marcus, product of the system. But underneath, buried under layers of forced obedience, was there anything left of Marcus Chen? I didn't know, and that was the scariest thing of all. Because if Marcus Chen was dead, who was I? Just a name on a t-shirt. A tool of the system, an executioner perpetuating the cycle. The next day, during training, a new student arrived. 16 years old, rebellious, defiant attitude. Jace assigned him to me. Instructor Marcus, this is your new project. Teach him what you learned. I looked at the boy. There was fire in his eyes. Like mine had been. How long ago? An eternity. Let's go, I said, leading him to his cabin. I'll explain the rules. As we walked, he asked, "How long have you been here?" I opened my mouth. The words stuck. How long? 13 months? More? Did it matter? Long enough to understand, I finally replied. The words sounded hollow, rehearsed, dead. The boy looked at me with pity. You're one of them. They turned you into one of them. I didn't answer, because he was right. When I left him at his cabin, I returned to mine. I sat on the bed with the crumpled photo in my hands. Marcus Chen. Family Day. Real smiles. I closed my eyes. And for the first time in months, maybe a year, I cried. Quietly, so no one would hear, because crying was manipulation. The system didn't tolerate manipulation, but in the privacy of my room, with the photo pressed against my chest, I let the tears fall. For the boy I had been, for the boy I was no longer, for all the boys trapped in this eternal cycle. And as I cried, I knew the truth. The system hadn't saved me. It had consumed me. It had replaced me. And now I was doing the same to others. The cycle continued, eternally, just like the tattoo said, and I was part of it. Forever. My name is Ethan Parker, and I'm 16 years old. My parents sent me to Camp Resilience this summer because they thought I needed character building. 3 weeks in the mountains of Montana, outdoor activities, teamwork, leadership. The brochure showed smiling kids kayaking and sitting around campfires. It seemed harmless. I arrived on a Monday in July on a bus with 24 other teenagers, ages 14 to 17. Most came from wealthy families who paid the $5,000 registration fee hoping their children would mature. I met my best friend that first night, Leo Martinez, 16 like me, skinny, with thick glasses and a nervous smile. We were bunkmates in cabin 3. The counselors introduced themselves during dinner, 5 in total, all in their 20s, with athletic builds and serious expressions. The leader was Coordinator Blake, about 28 years old, with short military hair and a square jaw. Welcome to Resilience. We don't play games here. We make men. His voice echoed in the wooden dining room. The next 3 weeks will teach you resilience, leadership, and sacrifice. Not everyone will survive the entire program. Some will ask to go home. That's allowed, but it means failure. No one said anything. The atmosphere was more military than recreational. The first week was intense but manageable. 6-hour hikes with 20-pound backpacks, physical training at dawn, obstacle courses in the mud. The instructors constantly shouted orders. Faster, that's weakness, overcome it. Some boys cried during the exercises. The instructors pointed them out. Look at the weakness. Do you want to be like him? Leo wasn't athletic. He came in last in the races, tripped over the obstacles. I helped him when I could, but the instructors separated us. There's no charity here, Parker. Everyone saves themselves. On Friday of the first week, Blake announced a new program during dinner. Starting tonight, we will implement Night Watch. Predators hunt at night, the weak sleep, leaders watch. He paused, his eyes scanning the dining hall. "Every night, 3 of you will patrol the camp. 2 hours, rotating shifts. Make sure everyone is in their cabins, that there are no intruders. It's responsibility, trust, leadership." The patrols began that night. The first 3 chosen were Jake, a burly 17-year-old, Emma, an athletic 16-year-old, and Noah, 14, quiet. We watched them leave at 11 p.m. with flashlights. They returned at 1 a.m., silent, and went straight to bed. The next day, Noah wasn't in formation. I asked about him during breakfast. My table mate, a boy named David, shrugged. Maybe he went home. Some can't handle it. But no one had mentioned Noah leaving. There was no announcement, no goodbye. He just disappeared. On the second night of surveillance, they chose 3 others, Megan, Sophie, and Tyler. They left with flashlights. They returned in silence. The next day, Tyler didn't show up. "Where's Tyler?" I asked Sophie during the walk. She looked at me with empty eyes. "I don't know who you're talking about." "Tyler, you did surveillance with him last night." "I did surveillance with Megan and another monitor." Her voice was flat. "There was no one else." She walked away quickly. I told Leo that night, whispering in our bunk beds while the others slept. "Something weird is going on. 2 kids have disappeared after guard duty." "Maybe they asked to leave," Leo said, but his voice was shaky. "Maybe they couldn't take it. But no one talks about them. It's like they never existed." "Ethan, maybe you're being paranoid. Camp is tough, but it's not sinister." I wanted to believe him, but that night, I couldn't sleep. On the 3rd night, they chose Leo. I almost jumped out of my bunk when Blake read his name. Martinez, Parker, and Justin. "Night watch. Get ready." "Me too," I said before I thought about it. Blake looked at me with interest. "Volunteer. That's leadership, Parker." He smiled. "Good. You replace Justin." Leo and I got ready in silence. The other boys looked at us with strange expressions, pity, or relief that it wasn't them. At 11 p.m., Blake handed us flashlights and walkie-talkies. Simple route. Start at the east cabins, follow the perimeter, check the dining hall, the facilities, come back. 2 hours. If you see anything unusual, report it immediately. He gave us maps of the camp. And remember, you are the eyes of the camp, the protectors. Act like it. We stepped out into the cold night air. The moon was a thin sliver, barely illuminating the paths. Leo walked close to me, his breathing rapid. "Ethan, I have a bad feeling about this." "Me too, but we're together. Nothing's going to happen." We checked the cabins to the east. Dark windows, closed doors. Everything normal. We continued around the perimeter. The forest beside us was a black, impenetrable mass. The trees creaked in the wind. "Where do you think Noah and Tyler are?" Leo whispered. "I don't know, but we're going to find out." We reached the dining hall. The doors were open. Strange. Blake had said everything had to be locked up at night. We entered cautiously, our flashlights cutting through the darkness. Empty tables, clean floor. But at the back, a door I hadn't seen before. Painted gray, no sign. "What's that?" Leo asked. I approached it. The handle turned. The door opened onto a downward sloping hallway. Concrete steps lit by red emergency lights. A smell of dampness and something else. Something metallic. "We shouldn't go down there," Leo said, but I was already on the first step. We went down. The hallway stretched about 20 meters and ended at another door. This one had a sign. "Authorized personnel only." I pressed my ear against the wood. Muffled voices. Laughter. I opened the door a crack. It was a large, basement-like room with flickering fluorescent lights, and there they were, Blake and the other monitors, sitting around a table, drinking beer, playing cards, normal, relaxed. "3 more this week," said one. "The pace is good." "Megan's group did it clean," Blake replied. "No resistance. That's progress." "And tonight, Parker and Martinez." Blake laughed. "Parker has potential. Martinez is weak." We'll see if Parker has what it takes." My blood ran cold. Leo grabbed my arm, pulling me away. We walked silently, closed the door, went upstairs. We ran out of the dining room, not speaking until we were far away in the woods. "What the hell was that?" Leo gasped. "Did it cleanly? No resistance? What were they talking about?" "I don't know. But Noah and Tyler, I don't think they went home." "What do you mean?" "I think something happened to them during surveillance." My mind raced, connecting the dots. The monitors choose 3 kids every night. The next day, 1 disappears, and no one talks about it. As if they've been erased. Leo was shaking. "That's impossible. This is a camp. There are rules, laws. Parents would know if they would know. We signed contracts when we arrived. No phone calls home, no visitors. 3 weeks of total isolation." My voice rose. "No one knows what really goes on here." The walkie-talkie crackled. "Surveillance team, report position." Blake's voice, cold and clear. Leo looked at me in terror. I pressed the button, finishing east round. "All clear." "Good. Be back in 10 minutes." We had 10 minutes to decide what to do. Run, hide, confront them. Every option seemed impossible. "Ethan, we have to get out of here," Leo whispered. "Now. We run into the woods, find a road, call for help." "The woods are huge. We could get lost, die of exposure. And if they catch us..." I didn't finish the sentence. "What if we stay? What do you think they'll do to us?" I had no answer. I took his hand. "We go back. We act normal. We don't know anything. Tomorrow we'll plan something better." "Are you crazy?" "Trust me." We returned to the meeting point. Blake was waiting for us with his arms crossed. "You took a while. Any problems?" "No, sir. We just checked everything thoroughly." He studied our faces under his flashlight. "Good. Job well done. You can rest." He turned away, then paused. "Oh, Parker, come to my office tomorrow after breakfast. I want to talk to you about leadership." He smiled. "You showed initiative tonight." In the cabin, Leo and I didn't sleep. We just lay there, staring at the ceiling, listening to the breathing of the other 12 boys. How many of them knew? How many had participated in surveillance and come back different? The next day, after breakfast, I went to Blake's office. It was a separate, smaller cabin with a metal desk and filing cabinets. Blake was sitting, reviewing papers. "Sit down, Ethan." He used my first name, more personal, more frightening. "Yesterday you showed leadership qualities. You volunteered to protect the group. That's admirable." "Thank you, sir. But I also noticed something." He leaned forward. "You're observing, asking questions about the kids who have left." His eyes locked with mine. "Why?" My mouth was dry. "Just curiosity. I thought maybe they asked to go home." "Exactly. Some don't have what it takes. The program is voluntary. If someone wants to leave, they can. No shame in that." He paused. "Do you want to leave, Ethan?" "No, sir." "Are you sure? Because if you have doubts, it's better to say so now. We don't want you to suffer unnecessarily." "I'm sure. I want to stay. Complete the program." He smiled. "Good. Because tonight you're going to have another chance to prove your leadership. Night watch again. You, Leo, and someone else. This time, a different route, more challenging." He stood up. "Go get ready. And Ethan, remember, leaders make tough decisions. Sometimes, to protect the group, you have to eliminate weakness." I left the office with shaky legs. His words echoed, "Eliminate weakness." What did that mean? I found Leo in the training area, doing push-ups, badly, his arms shaking. I pulled him aside to a secluded spot. "Tonight again," I whispered. Blake said something weird, about eliminating weakness. Eliminate? Ethan, I think we should try to escape. Now, during dinner when they're distracted. It won't work. They'll be watching us more closely after last night. We have to play the game until we find a real way out. What if there is no way out? Leo's eyes were red. What if we're the next ones to disappear? I had no answer. That night, at 11 p.m., Blake handed us flashlights. The third member of the team was Caleb, a quiet 16-year-old with a vacant stare. He didn't speak as we got ready. Different route tonight, Blake said. You go to the tool shed, pick up maintenance equipment, take it to the north clearing. Simple. 2 hours. He handed us a map. Caleb knows the way. Follow his lead. We set off. Caleb walked ahead, Leo and I behind. The forest was dense here, the path barely visible. After 20 minutes, we reached the shed. Caleb unlocked it with a key. Inside, garden tools, shovels, rakes, axes, and on a shelf in the back, something covered with a tarp. Caleb pulled it back. They were bags, industrial black plastic bags, the kind you'd use for trash or bodies. What do we need these for? I asked, my voice breaking. Caleb looked at us with dead eyes. For the job. What job? The one Blake assigned us. He grabbed 2 shovels. You guys carry the bags. I'll carry the tools. Let's go to the clearing. Wait, Leo said, backing away. What are we going to do in the clearing? Caleb sighed. The same thing everyone does. What needs to be done? He walked out of the shed. Leo grabbed my arm. I'm not going. I'm not going there. Whatever it is, I'm not participating. Then they'll kill us. I said it quietly, but with certainty. If we don't obey, we're the weak ones, and the weak ones disappear. So what? Do we do what they want? Do we become them? I didn't answer. I grabbed one of the bags. It was light, empty. For now. We followed Caleb to the northern clearing. It was an open space surrounded by tall pine trees. The full moon was now shining, illuminating everything with silvery light. And there, in the center of the clearing, was a figure tied to a tree. A boy. Barely visible but recognizable by his small size. My heart stopped. It was Daniel, a 14-year-old boy who had arrived 2 weeks ago. Skinny, shy, always crying during exercises. What the hell? Leo whispered. Daniel raised his head. His mouth was gagged, his eyes terrified. He tried to scream, but only a muffled moan came out. Caleb dropped the shovels on the ground. Blake says he's this week's weak link. He can't keep up. He cries, he complains, he drags the group down. His voice was mechanical. We have to eliminate him. Eliminate, I repeated, my mind refusing to accept what I was hearing. What exactly does that mean? Caleb looked at me like I was an idiot. Kill him. Bury him. Erase the weak link. He picked up a shovel. That's how it works. Every week they identify the weakest ones. During surveillance, the team processes them. Then they report that the kid asked to go home. The parents get a fake letter. Everyone's happy. Leo threw up on the floor. I was frozen, the world spinning. No, this can't be real. This is murder. It's illegal. It's the program. Caleb interrupted me. Resilience isn't a camp. It's selection. Survival of the fittest. Only those who demonstrate strength by eliminating weakness can graduate. Those who refuse become the next weakness. He showed me his arm. It had a long scar. My first night on watch, I refused. Blake cut me and said next time it would be my throat. Then he made me do the job anyway. You learn to obey. Daniel whimpered behind the gag, his pleading eyes fixed on us. I won't do it, Leo said, his voice firm despite his trembling. I'm not going to kill anyone. You can kill me, but I won't do this. Caleb sighed. Then you're the weak one. He raised the shovel as a weapon. I moved without thinking, stepping between them. Wait. My mind was racing. Blake said this is about leadership. About making tough decisions, right? Caleb nodded slowly. Then I decide. As the team leader tonight, I do the job. My voice sounded foreign. Leo doesn't have to participate. Are you crazy? Leo shouted. You can't do this. It's him or us, I whispered. If we don't do this, Caleb will kill us both. At least this way, one of us survives. It was a lie. I didn't plan to kill Daniel, but I needed time. I needed Caleb to let his guard down. Caleb studied me. Fine, you do it. Leo watches. If you try anything, I'll kill you both and report that they were weak. He lowered the shovel, but remained alert. I approached Daniel. His eyes begged. Tears ran down his cheeks. He had bruises on his arms, scratches on his face. They had fought to tie him up here. I touched the ropes. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I'm going to get you out of here." I didn't know how, but I had to try. I started to untie the ropes. Caleb stepped forward. "What are you doing?" "I can't kill him while he's tied up. It's not honorable. He has to be able to defend himself. That's what a true leader would do, right?" I was improvising, the words coming out desperately. Caleb considered it. "I suppose. But don't try anything or... I know, you'll kill us." I untied Daniel. He fell to the floor, breathing heavily. I removed his gag. "Please," he moaned. "Please don't kill me. I'll call my parents. I'll leave. I won't say anything." "Shut up," Caleb ordered. "Your parents think you're happy here. They've already received fake updates. No one is looking for you." Leo was crying silently, standing at the edge of the clearing. I held a shovel, feeling its weight. I could hit Caleb, but he was stronger than me. And if I missed... "Do it," Caleb said. "Now, or I'll do it. And then I'll do you." Daniel was sobbing, curled up on the ground. A 14-year-old boy who just wanted to survive summer camp. I raised the shovel. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold it. "I can't," I whispered. "I can't do this." "Then you're weak." Caleb moved toward me, his own shovel raised. A flashlight shone from the woods. "Stop." Blake emerged from the trees with 2 other counselors. He had been watching. All night. "Interesting," Blake said, approaching. "Ethan, I offered you leadership, a chance to prove strength, and you failed. I'm not going to kill a child. He's not a child. He's weakness, a liability. In the real world, weakness drags the strong down. Here, we teach them to cut it out before it's too late." He stood in front of me. "Your friend Leo is weak too. He can't complete the exercises. He cries at night. Did you know that? We hear everything with the cameras in the cabins." My stomach sank. Cameras. They had been watching us the whole time. "So here's your decision, Ethan. Final leadership test." Blake pulled a knife from his belt. He placed it in my hand. "You eliminate Daniel. Prove your strength. Graduate in 3 weeks with leadership certification and recommendations for any college. Or you refuse, and you become the next target, along with Leo." The knife was cold in my palm. Daniel whimpered on the floor. Leo looked at me with horror and pleading. "You can't make me do this," I said, my voice breaking. "It's murder." "Not in this context. Here, it's education. Accelerated natural selection. We've been running this program for 5 years. 27 successful graduates. All leaders in their fields now. They all understood that strength requires sacrifice." Blake smiled. "And the weak ones, who were eliminated, well, no one misses them. They were mediocre anyway. We did the world a favor." "You're sick," I spat on the ground. "We're realists. The world is brutal, Ethan. Better to learn it here, under control, than to discover it when it's too late to adapt." He crossed his arms. "Now decide. 30 seconds. I looked at the knife, then at Daniel, his pleading eyes, then at Leo, trembling, then at the dark forest surrounding us, with no visible escape. There was no way out. If I refused, they would kill us both. If I accepted, I would become one of them. A killer. A monster. 10 seconds. "Ethan, don't do it," Leo whispered. "I'm not worth it. Save yourself." 5. I closed my eyes. 2 paths, both ending in blood. Time. Wait. My voice was barely audible. "I'll do it, but only if you let Leo go. He doesn't have to see this." Blake considered it. "Fair deal. Leo, go back to camp. Report that surveillance was successful. If you say anything to anyone, Ethan dies. Understood?" Leo looked at me with eyes full of tears. "Ethan, please, don't." "Go." I tried to sound firm. "Trust me, go." They forced him to leave, a monitor escorting him. When he disappeared into the woods, Blake, Caleb, another monitor, Daniel and I were left. "Now," Blake said. "Prove it." I knelt next to Daniel. He screamed, trying to crawl away, but Caleb held him down. "Please," Daniel sobbed. "Please, I have a family." "I have—" "Everyone does," Blake interrupted me. "That doesn't make it special. Do it quickly. Less suffering is more humane." I raised the knife. My hand was shaking violently. I couldn't do it. But the alternative was my death. And Leo would die too if I didn't obey. "Do it," Blake repeated. I closed my eyes. I pressed the knife against Daniel's neck. He screamed. I screamed. Everything was screaming. Then, sirens. Distant but unmistakable. Red and blue lights flashing through the trees. Amplified voices. "Camp Resilience, police. Come out with your hands up," Blake cursed. "How the hell?" He looked toward the forest. The other counselors ran. Hesitant for a second, Blake snatched the knife from me. "This isn't over," he hissed. He ran. I was left alone with Daniel. I untied him completely. "Run," I said. "Run toward the lights." He didn't hesitate. He disappeared into the trees. I stayed in the clearing, my hand stained with my own blood, where I had gripped the knife so tightly that I cut myself. The sirens were getting closer. Voices were shouting names. Later, I learned the truth. Leo hadn't obeyed. As soon as he reached the camp, he stole a walkie-talkie, found the emergency frequency, and transmitted our location. "Murder in progress. Resilience camp. Coordinates." He had been beaten before he could finish, but it was enough. An officer at the nearby ranger station picked up the transmission and alerted the state police. 18 kids were rescued that night. 6 were missing: Noah, Tyler, and 4 others whose names I never knew, buried in the woods. They were found days later with the help of dogs. The counselors tried to flee but were arrested along the way. The trial lasted months. Blake and the others faced charges of multiple murder, kidnapping, child abuse. They discovered that the program was a twisted social experiment funded by wealthy people obsessed with social Darwinism. They believed they were creating leaders by eliminating weakness. In reality, they were only creating trauma. 6 of the previous graduates were arrested as well. They had returned as counselors, perpetuating the cycle. Victims who became perpetrators. I spent 2 years in therapy. Nightmares where I see the knife in my hand, Daniel's gaze. Although I didn't kill him, I was willing to. For 30 seconds, I considered becoming a murderer to save myself. That's what haunts me. Not what I did, but what I was about to do. Leo never spoke to me again. I don't blame him. I put him in that position. Even though he saved me, he probably hates me for dragging him there. Daniel survived, but changed. I saw him once after the trial. His eyes had that same empty quality I saw in Caleb. The trauma had broken him. And me, I live with the truth. Under the right circumstances, with the right pressure, almost anyone can be turned into a monster. Camp Resilience was shut down. The grounds are abandoned now, but I know there are other places like it. Character programs that cross lines. Extreme methods that justify any abuse in the name of strength. Sometimes I get messages from former campers. Some are grateful that it ended. Others, the ones who had started to believe in the system, blame me for ruining their transformation. One wrote to me last year, "You almost made it, Ethan. You were almost strong. Too bad your weakness won in the end." I blocked him, but his words stuck with me. Because part of me still wonders, what would have happened if the sirens had arrived 5 minutes later? Would I have put the knife down, or would I have pressed on? I don't have an answer, and that's the part that keeps me awake at night. Last summer, 3 years after the incident, I received a package, no return address. Inside, a black t-shirt with the Camp Resilience logo and a handwritten note. The program continues, under new names, new locations, but same mission: eliminate weakness, create strength. Some of us escape judgment. Some of us still believe. One day, you'll understand that Blake was right. The world is brutal. Only the strong deserve to thrive. Thank you for almost being strong. Too bad you failed at the crucial moment. But there's still time. If you ever want to complete your transformation, come find us. The system forgives. The system waits. P.S. The knife you didn't use is clean now, stored away, waiting for your hand. A graduate. I burned the letter. I burned the t-shirt. I called the police. They said they would investigate, but never found anything. That night, lying in the dark, I felt the phantom weight of the knife in my palm. I imagined the pressure of steel against skin, the moment when everything would change, and I wondered, did they really destroy the program, or did they just scatter it, like seeds in the wind, waiting to germinate in new camps, new victims, new executioners? I have no answer. But when I close my eyes, I'm still in that clearing. The full moon shining, Daniel whimpering, Blake whispering, "Do it." And the worst part, the part I've never told anyone. For a second, a horrible, honest second, I wanted to do it. Not out of fear, not for survival, but because Blake was right about one thing. In that moment, I did feel powerful, superior, strong, and that feeling, that dark flash of something primitive and terrible inside me. It scared me more than any death threat, because it meant that the monster wasn't Blake. It wasn't the system. It wasn't the camp. The monster was always inside me, waiting for the right conditions to awaken. Camp Resilience didn't create that. It just revealed it. And now, 3 years later, I still wonder, if the sirens had never come, who would I be now? I don't want to know, but I suspect I already do. And that's the real horror. My name is Oliver Hayes, and I am 21 years old. My social anxiety began when I was 14, after an incident in middle school where I had a panic attack in front of the entire class during a presentation. Since then, crowds have suffocated me. Casual conversations feel like interrogations. Leaving the house is a daily battle against a voice that whispers, "Everyone is looking at you. Everyone is judging you." For years, I managed it. Weekly therapy, medication, breathing techniques. But after dropping out of college in my sophomore year, I couldn't handle the dining halls, the parties, the constant social pressure. My parents despaired. "Oliver, you need real help," my mother said through tears. "This regular therapist isn't working. You need something intensive." They found Clear Mind Retreat in the mountains of Vermont. A 3-week program of therapeutic group immersion. The brochure promised transformative results through radical vulnerability techniques. $14,000. My father sold his car to pay for it. It's our last hope, son. I arrived on a Monday in October. The retreat was a complex of wooden cabins in the middle of dense forests, 2 hours from the nearest town. No cell phone signal. "Isolation necessary for healing," explained the driver who picked me up at the bus station. He was a quiet guy with acne scars and a blank stare. At the reception desk, a woman in her 40s with an overly broad smile greeted me. "Oliver, welcome to your new life. I'm Coordinator Helen. You're going to experience an incredible transformation." She took my phone, laptop, and any other electronic devices. No external distractions, just internal focus. She handed me a thick manual. "Read this tonight. Tomorrow your true healing begins." I was assigned to Cabin 5 with 5 other young people, ages between 19 and 23, all with similar problems: anxiety, depression, social trauma. I met my bunkmate, James, 22, who had attempted suicide twice. "My parents sent me here as a last resort," he muttered. "They say it's intense, but effective." His eyes were sunken, his his skin pale. He looked like a ghost. That night, I read the manual. It was disturbing. Strict rules. Wake up at 6 a.m., group sessions from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., with minimal breaks, no talking outside of sessions without permission, total obedience to the facilitators. Resistance is the enemy of healing. Questioning the process is questioning your own recovery. The last page had a contract signed by my parents authorizing unconventional therapeutic techniques if medically necessary. My stomach clenched. The first session was at 9 a.m. on Tuesday in a windowless cabin with a circle of chairs. 12 participants, 4 facilitators. The leader was Dr. Marcus Brennan, in his 50s, bald, with a soft voice but eyes as hard as stone. Welcome. There is no judgment here, only truth. To heal, you must expose yourselves completely. No masks, no defenses, radical vulnerability. We started with honest introductions. Each person had to share their greatest shame. When it was my turn, I tried to keep it vague. I have social anxiety. I have a hard time talking to people. That's evasive, Oliver. Dr. Brennan leaned forward. Your greatest shame, the thing you've never told anyone. Say it now. I don't know if... Are you resisting? His voice hardened. Resistance is the enemy. If you can't be honest here, you can't heal. The group looked at me expectantly. The silence was oppressive. I had a panic attack in class, I mumbled. I wet myself. Everyone laughed. Be more specific. Details. Recreate it so we can all feel it. I didn't want to, but the pressure was unbearable. 12 pairs of eyes. I was 14. History presentation. I went up to the front and my mind went blank. I couldn't breathe. Then I felt heat between my legs. Urine ran down my pants. It dripped onto the floor. The class burst out laughing. The teacher called the nurse. I spent the rest of the year as Oliver Pee Pants. Tears burned. I hadn't told this in such detail even to my therapist. Good. Dr. Brennan smiled. That's honesty. Now, how does sharing that make you feel? Ashamed. Exposed. Exactly. That shame is your prison, Oliver. To free you, we must destroy it. And we destroy it by exposing it over and over again until it loses its power. He turned to the group. Everyone, repeat after me. Oliver peed in class. They hesitated. Then, like automatons, Oliver peed in class. Again, with more conviction. Oliver peed himself in class. They repeated it 10 times. My face burned, my heart pounded painfully. I wanted to run, but I was paralyzed. See, said Dr. Brennan. Now it's just words. It lost its venom. But that wasn't true. The venom had multiplied. The sessions continued like this all day. Each person forced to expose their deepest traumas, then publicly dissected. One girl, Emma, revealed that her stepfather had touched her inappropriately when she was 12. Dr. Brennan made her reenact the scene in detail. Where exactly did he touch you? What did you feel? Did you tell him to stop? She sobbed uncontrollably. Why didn't you scream? Did part of you enjoy it? Emma screamed no, but he insisted. Complete honesty, Emma. If you don't admit your complicity, you'll never heal your shame. It was repulsive, but no one intervened. When I tried to say something, another facilitator, a woman named Sarah, stopped me. Oliver, questioning the process is resistance. If you continue, you will have to go to intensive reflection. I didn't know what that was, but it sounded scary. I shut up. The second session, after lunch, watery soup and stale bread, was group mirror. Dr. Brennan had us stand in front of the group one by one while the others said the first thing that came to mind about us. Unfiltered criticism. When it was my turn, the words were knives. You look weak. You have the face of a victim. Your eyes are weird, like you're always about to cry. I bet you're a virgin. You're disgusting. Dr. Brennan encouraged them. Good, raw honesty. Oliver needs to hear how the world perceives him to understand why he's alone. I broke down after 15 minutes. Dr. Brennan called a break. "Oliver, you see? You can't handle the truth. That's why your anxiety persists. We must break your fragile ego to rebuild you stronger." That night, James whispered to me in the bunk, "This isn't therapy. It's torture." But when I suggested we leave, he shook his head. "My parents spend everything. If I fail here, I have nowhere to go." His resignation was terrifying. On the third day, they introduced new techniques. Physical confrontation. They made us stand face to face with another participant, noses almost touching, and express our pent-up anger. I was paired with a big guy named Derek, who had anger issues. "Yell your anger at Oliver," Dr. Brennan ordered. Derek yelled in my face for 5 minutes, spittle flying, veins throbbing in his neck. I trembled, unable to respond. "Now you, Oliver, yell back." I couldn't. My voice was choked off. Dr. Brennan snapped his fingers. Sarah grabbed my arm. Intensive reflection, 1 hour. Intensive reflection was a closet-sized room. Padded walls, no windows, flickering fluorescent light. They pushed me inside and locked the door. I stood. There wasn't enough room to sit comfortably, while a speaker played a looped recording of my own voice. It was from the previous session when I had admitted my shame. I peed in class. Everyone laughed. "I'm pathetic." Over and over. My voice distorted, reverberating. After 30 minutes, I couldn't tell if the voice was real or imaginary. I banged on the door. No one answered. After an hour, when they pulled me out, I was shaking and disoriented. "Did you learn anything?" Sarah asked. I nodded, unable to speak. The first week was a steady escalation. Trust exercises, where we were blindfolded and dropped backward, trusting the group to catch us. Except sometimes they didn't. You fell to the floor, the impact hitting your back. "Real trust requires betrayal first," Dr. Brennan explained. "Only then do you learn that you can survive disappointment." Deprivation therapy, where they woke us up at 3 a.m. for extra sessions. Without adequate sleep, my mind became foggy. I started to confuse sessions. Had I said that today or yesterday? The facilitators used my fatigue against me. "Oliver, yesterday you admitted that you blame your mother for your anxiety. Do you remember?" I didn't remember, but maybe I had said it. "Say it again, with conviction." "I blame my mother to..." "Why?" Because she..." I didn't know. I made it up. "Because she never defended me at school." Was it true? My memory was mud. "Good. Now call her." They handed me a phone. "Tell her how you really feel." "But I'm not sure that..." Resistance again, Oliver. Dr. Brennan snapped his fingers. Intensive reflection. 2 hours this time. The room was getting smaller, or I was getting bigger. The walls were pressing in on me. The recording now included fragments of conversations I didn't remember having. "I hate my mother. I wish I were dead. I'm a failure." Had I said those things? They sounded like me, but distorted. Worse. The second week, they introduced guided regression, supposedly therapeutic hypnosis. Dr. Brennan had us lie down while he narrated in a monotone voice. "Go back to your worst memory, the moment your mind broke." In a trance, I relived the incident from high school, but with each session, the memory changed. Dr. Brennan added details. "Remember how your teacher looked at you with disgust? How your best friend walked away from you afterward?" I didn't remember that specifically, but under hypnosis, the images became real. My brain filled in the gaps with Brennan's suggestions. After 5 regression sessions, I no longer knew which memories were original and which were implanted. Had my mother said I was a disappointment? Brennan insisted she had. "You mentioned it in Thursday's session." I didn't remember Thursday. The days blurred together. James disappeared in the second week. One morning, his bunk was empty. When I asked, Helen smiled. James completed his phase and was transferred to advanced integration. They're in the northern cabins. But no one else had seen those cabins. And James had seemed worse, not better, the last time I saw him. That night, I tried to sneak out to find the northern cabins. I didn't get far. Sarah caught me in the woods. Oliver, trying to escape means you don't trust your healing. That's serious. They took me not to intensive reflection, but to a different room. Deep correction, they called it. It was a room with a metal chair in the center, straps on the armrests. They tied me down. Dr. Brennan came in with a tablet. Oliver, your resistance is destroying your progress. We need to reformat your thinking. He pressed play. The screen showed videos, first of my family, photos from my childhood, but with Brennan's voiceover narrating. Your parents never really loved you. They sent you here to get rid of you. You're a burden. The images were distorted, my parents' faces twisted into grimaces of disgust. They weren't the original photos. They had been edited. Then they showed clips from the group sessions, but edited to make me look worse. Me saying things I didn't remember saying, crying like a child. Shouting obscenities. This is you, Oliver, unfiltered, pathetic, worthless. Do you understand why you're alone? They forced me to watch for 2 hours. When they untied me, I wasn't sure what was real. Had I said those things? Did my parents really hate me? My mind was a maze of broken mirrors. The third week was hell. Integration week, they called it. Sessions from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. No real breaks, minimal food, fasting clears the mind. Each session was more invasive. Total exposure. They made us strip naked in front of the group while the others pointed out our physical imperfections. Your bones stick out, you're disgusting. You have stretch marks. How repulsive. Dr. Brennan took notes. Body shame fuels social anxiety. We must destroy it through extreme exposure. Trauma reenactment. I was made to act out my panic attack in front of the class, with other participants playing my classmates laughing. I had to deliberately urinate in my pants while they shouted Oliver Pee-Pee over and over. Dr. Brennan filmed. For your progress file, he explained. But the camera felt like a weapon. Whereas Emma had a nervous breakdown after she was forced to reenact her abuse. She screamed that she wanted to leave. Dr. Brennan slapped her. Pain is healing, Emma. If you run away now, all this suffering was useless. Do you want to disappoint your parents? She sobbed, shook her head, obeyed. I began to dissociate. During the sessions, my mind floated outside my body. I watched myself from above, a puppet following orders. Dr. Brennan noticed my absence. Oliver, you're hiding. That's not allowed. They put me in deep correction again, but for longer. 4 hours tied up watching distorted videos of myself, my voice saying horrible things. I deserve to be alone. I'm trash. Everyone would be better off without me. Had I said that, the line between reality and induction had completely dissolved. On the night of the 19th day, I had a conversation with Derek during a rare unsupervised moment. I think they're brainwashing us, I whispered. He looked at me with glassy eyes. No, they're saving us. I feel better. Before, I wanted to kill my father. Now I understand that I was the problem. Dr. Brennan taught me that. He spoke like a robot. The transformation was complete in him. It scared me to realize that soon I would be the same. On the 20th day, Dr. Brennan called me into his private office. Oliver, you've made progress. Slowly, but you've made progress. Now comes the final phase, testimony of healing. He took out a professional camera. You're going to record a message for your parents. You will tell them how this retreat saved you, how you are now cured, how Dr. Brennan is your hero. He put a script in front of me. Read this. I looked at the paper. Words written in large font. I'm better now. I'm cured. The Clear Mind Retreat saved my life. Dr. Brennan is a genius. I would recommend this program to anyone. My anxiety is gone. I'm a new person. Thank you, Mom and Dad, for sending me here. I love you. Every word was a lie. I was worse off. My mind was fractured. My identity erased. I can't say this, I whispered. It's not true. No, Dr. Brennan leaned in. Oliver, think. Don't you feel different than when you arrived? Yes, but not better. I feel empty, broken. That is better. We broke your false ego. Now you can rebuild yourself properly, but your parents need to see results. They paid $14,000. If you go back and tell them it didn't work, what will they think? They'll reject you. They'll say you're a lost cause. He paused, letting that sink in. But if you record this testimony, if you show your transformation, they'll welcome you back with open arms. Isn't that what you want? Did I want that? I didn't know what I wanted anymore. My mind was static. Read the script, Oliver. It's for your own good. He turned on the camera. The red light flashed. Action. I looked at the paper. The word swam. I'm better now. More conviction. Smile. I forced a smile. I felt my face split. I'm better now. I'm cured. Good. Keep going. The clear mind retreat saved my life. The tears came, uncontrollable. They ran down my cheeks as I spoke. Dr. Brennan is a genius. I would recommend this program to anyone. Excellent. Tears of gratitude, very authentic. Keep going. My anxiety it's gone. Lie. It was worse than ever. Constantly terrified. But the words came out like involuntary vomit. I'm a new person. Thank you, Mom and Dad, for sending me here. I love you. Perfect. Cut. Dr. Brennan turned off the camera, smiling. That was beautiful, Oliver. Your parents will cry with joy. He saved the recording. Tomorrow you leave. Graduated. Cured. He patted me on the shoulder. It felt like he was touching a corpse. That's what I was now, an empty shell. That night I couldn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, tears drying on my face. What had they done to me? I didn't remember who I was before I arrived. The memories of my previous life were distorted fragments. Had my mother ever loved me? Or was I always a disappointment? I couldn't tell anymore. In the bunk next to me, a new boy, who had arrived 2 days ago, was crying quietly. Are you okay? I whispered. I want to go home, he sobbed. This is a nightmare. There is no home, I replied in a flat voice. There is only this, the process, the healing. You must trust the process. The words came out automatically, programmed. I sounded like Dr. Brennan. I scared myself. Day 21, graduation, was a ceremony in the dining hall. 7 of us healed, standing in front of the entire group. Dr. Brennan gave a speech. These young people arrived broken. Now they are whole. They arrived weak. Now they are strong. They arrived sick. Now they are healed. Applause. Some participants cried with joy, or with relief that they weren't the ones being questioned today. We were given certificates. Graduate of the Clear Mind program, complete transformation. Also a USB drive with our testimonial recording to show our families. Proof of your success, Helen said, smiling that overly broad smile. My father picked me up that afternoon. He ran toward me with tears in his eyes, hugging me. Oliver, you look so different. How are you feeling? I opened my mouth. The words from the script came out automatically. I'm better now, Dad. I'm cured. The retreat saved my life. I smiled. The same forced smile from the recording. My father cried with happiness. In the car on the way back, he talked excitedly about future plans. Maybe you can go back to college next semester, make friends, live normally. I nodded, murmuring appropriate responses. But inside there was a void. The Oliver who had boarded the bus 3 weeks ago no longer existed. He had been dissected, broken down, restructured, and what remained was this, a shell that said the right words. For months afterward, I kept up the facade. I'm fine. The retreat worked. I don't have anxiety anymore. My parents were ecstatic. They showed the recording to relatives. Look how he talks, so confident, worth every penny. In the recording, I was crying while saying I was cured. No one noticed the contradiction, or they didn't care. I tried to go back to regular therapy. My old therapist frowned during our first session. "Oliver, you seem different. Not in a good way. What exactly happened at that retreat?" "I was cured." The words came out automatically. "That's not... Oliver, did they hurt you there?" "No, they saved me." I couldn't say anything else. The scripts had been tattooed on my brain. He stopped asking questions. Maybe he thought I was better. Maybe he didn't want to know the truth. At night, lying in my old room, I relived the sessions. Dr. Brennan yelling at me. The intensive reflection room, my voice on loop. The edited videos of my family hating me. The trauma reenactments. And I didn't know what was real. Had my mother really ever told me I was a disappointment? Or had Brennan planted that? My memory was a minefield. I started looking for information about the retreat online. I found some forums, testimonials from former participants. Systematic abuse. Psychological torture disguised as therapy. They left me worse than before. But for every negative testimonial, there were 5 positive ones. Videos of graduates crying, saying they were cured, just like mine. Were they all faking it? Or did some really believe it worked? One forum had a thread dedicated to clear mind survivors. I read stories similar to mine. Some had reported the retreat to the authorities. Nothing had happened. They have powerful lawyers. The parents signed contracts authorizing unconventional methods. It's legal, technically. One wrote, "It's been 3 years since I left. I still don't know which memories are mine and which were implanted. My identity is a ghost." I considered joining the forum, sharing my story. But when I tried to write, only the words from the script came out. "I'm better now. I'm cured." I couldn't form critical sentences. My brain automatically blocked them. I closed the laptop, trembling. 6 months later, I received an email from the retreat. Subject: "Congratulations on your first anniversary of healing." I opened it. It was an invitation to return as a graduate mentor. Many of our former participants choose to stay and help guide new members. It's a beautiful way to consolidate your transformation and give back. Attached were photos of smiling graduates working as Dr. Brennan's assistants. I recognized some of them. Derek was there, wearing a black staff t-shirt, his eyes dead but his smile bright. The idea turned my stomach. Become one of them? Do to others what they did to me, but part of me, the part they had reprogrammed, considered the offer. It would be easy. I knew the scripts. I knew the techniques. I could help cure others. The thought terrified me. I deleted the email, but the damage was done. That night, I dreamed I was back at the retreat, but not as a participant, as a facilitator. I had a boy tied to the deep correction chair, forcing him to watch distorted videos. "It's for your own good," I would say, using Dr. Brennan's voice. The boy would cry. I would smile. I woke up screaming. A year after the retreat, my condition was worse than before I went. My social anxiety had multiplied. Now I also had PTSD, panic attacks triggered by random things, enclosed spaces, loud voices, anything that reminded me of Brennan. I couldn't function. My parents were confused. "But you were cured. We saw it on the video." I tried to explain. That video was forced. They made me say those things. They psychologically tortured me for 3 weeks. They didn't believe me. "Oliver, Dr. Brennan is a respected professional. I wouldn't lie about him." They pointed to the certificate on the wall. "Complete transformation," it said. Irrefutable proof. My mother finally admitted the truth 2 years later. We had coffee in an attempt to reconnect. She stared at her cup, avoiding my eyes. "Oliver, I have to confess something. When we sent you to the retreat, we knew it was controversial. We read negative reviews. but we were desperate. We thought the end justified the means. Tears ran down her cheeks. I'm sorry. We didn't know it would be so brutal. I didn't respond right away. Part of me wanted to yell at her. Another part, the programmed part, wanted to say, "It's okay, you saved me." The two parts fought. Finally, I whispered, "You broke something in me that can't be fixed." "I know." She took my hand. "I see it in your eyes. You're not the same boy we sent." "No," I admitted. "Oliver Hayes died at that retreat. I don't know who I am now." 5 years have passed. I'm now 26. I live alone in a tiny apartment, working remotely to avoid social interactions. My anxiety is paralyzing. I take 4 different medications. I see a trauma specialist twice a week. She says I have complex trauma from institutional abuse. There is no simple cure, only management. Sometimes, in moments of stress, my brain automatically falls back on the scripts. I'm better now. I'm healed. The words come out without me thinking them. My therapist calls it residual programming. She says it can take years, maybe decades, to undo that conditioning, if it can ever be done. The Clear Mind Retreat is still operating. I looked into it recently. They have a 6-month waiting list, over 200 graduates to date. Their testimonial videos saturate YouTube. Kids crying, saying they're cured, thanking Dr. Brennan, just like mine. How many are genuine? How many were coerced? The comments are full of parents praising the program. "It saved my son." "Miraculous results." "Worth every penny." And interspersed, a few quickly deleted comments. "This is abuse." My daughter came back worse. "Please investigate this place." But most people don't see them. Success is the dominant narrative. Last night, I found a recent video of Dr. Brennan giving a TED Talk. Title, "Curing the Anxiety Epidemic, Radical Vulnerability as a Therapeutic Revolution." It has 2 million views. In the comments, graduates testify, "It changed my life. Dr. Brennan is a saint." One wrote, "I went to the retreat 5 years ago. I still use the techniques I learned there. Best investment my parents ever made." It has thousands of likes. I couldn't finish the video. Seeing her face, hearing her soft, manipulative voice, gave me a panic attack. I spent 3 hours in the fetal position, repeating mantras from my therapist to calm myself down. But what terrifies me most is not my own trauma. It's knowing that right now, as I write this, there are kids at that retreat, in windowless rooms, listening to recordings of their own distorted voices, being forced to reenact their worst memories, being filmed crying as they declare themselves cured. And when they leave, in 3 weeks, they will say the programmed words, "I'm better now. I'm cured." Their parents will cry with joy, show the videos, show off the certificates, and no one will know the truth. No one except them, lying in their beds at night, wondering which memories are real, feeling the emptiness where their identity used to be, repeating the mantras in whispers, "I'm better now. I'm cured. I'm better now. I'm cured," over and over, until the words lose meaning but never stop hurting. I know because I still do it, every night, in the dark, my voice a hollow echo of what I was forced to say. I'm better now. I'm cured. But I'm not. I never will be. And that is my cure. That is my healing. That is my complete transformation. An empty shell that knows how to say the right words while crumbling inside. Congratulations, Dr. Brennan. It worked exactly as you promised. My name is Chris Donovan, and I am 22 years old. I desperately needed the job. 3 months of sending out resumes with no response. Rent in arrears, bank account in the red. When I saw the ad for a summer camp counselor. Competitive salary, room and board included, natural environment. I applied without thinking twice. 2 days later, I received an email. Congratulations. You start on Monday, June 15th. Address attached. Own transportation required. There was no interview. There was no phone call. Just that terse email and an address in the middle of the mountains of northern Maine, 4 hours from the nearest town. I arrived on a Monday at 2 p.m. after driving down increasingly narrow dirt roads. Camp Evergreen was a cluster of wooden cabins surrounded by dense forest. A faded sign hung above the entrance. There was no cell phone signal. The bars had disappeared an hour ago, and no visible Wi-Fi. Total isolation. I parked next to 3 other cars and walked toward the main cabin. A man in his 50s greeted me at the door. He was wearing an impeccable gray suit, completely inappropriate for a camp. His hair was slicked back, and he had a professional smile that didn't reach his eyes. Chris Donovan. He didn't wait for an answer. I'm Director Wallace. Welcome to Evergreen Pines. You're right on time. He shook my hand with excessive force. Thank you for the opportunity, sir. I'm excited to... Let's get straight to the paperwork. He led me inside to a small office, metal desk, filing cabinets, a calendar on the wall marked with red X's on seemingly random dates. I sat down. He pulled out a folder. I need you to sign these forms. Employment contract, liability waiver, confidentiality agreement. He placed 3 documents in front of me. I skimmed them quickly. Dense legal language. It's standard, he assured me. All monitors sign the same thing. I signed without reading it completely. Mistake number 1. Perfect. He put the papers away. Now, about your position. He opened another filing cabinet and took out a folder with my name on it. Except when he opened it, it was empty. Completely empty. No resume, no application email, nothing. He frowned. Looks like there was an administrative error. We have no record of your hiring. My stomach sank. What? I got a confirmation email. You guys contacted me. Yeah, I'm sure you did. He closed the folder. System issues. It happens all the time, but you're here now. You signed the contract. And frankly, we need counselors. It's peak season. He smiled. So, welcome officially. You start today. But shouldn't you have my information, my resume? We'll add it later. Don't worry, now come. I'll show you around the facilities. He took me on a quick tour. Dining room, recreation area, 8 cabins for children, 4 for staff. You'll be the head counselor for cabin 4. 8 kids, ages 10 to 12. Your fellow counselors will help you settle in. He handed me a blue t-shirt with the camp logo. Wear it at all times. Visual identification. The children would arrive tomorrow. Today was staff orientation. Dinner at 6 p.m. We'll introduce you to everyone. He walked away toward his office, his shoes echoing on the wooden floor. I was left alone with the t-shirt in my hands and a tingling feeling of unease. There was no record of my hiring, but they gave me the job anyway. Wasn't that weird? I went to my assigned cabin, staff cabin 2, top bunk. My roommate Jake was unpacking, 25 years old, athletic, friendly smile. Hey, you must be Chris. We shook hands. Jake Morrison, second summer here. You're going to love this place. It's quiet, isolated, perfect for disconnecting. Yeah, definitely isolated, no cell phone signal. There won't be. We're in the middle of nowhere, but there's a landline in the director's office if you need to call someone urgently. He shrugged. Honestly, it's liberating. No social media, no distractions. And Director Wallace, what's he like? Strict but fair. He has clear rules. Follow them, and everything flows smoothly. Jake continued unpacking. The only weird thing is that the staff changes a lot. People say it's not for them and leave mid-season. But those of us who stay are like family. Do people leave often? Every season. Some can't stand the isolation, or they realize that working with kids isn't their thing. He didn't seem concerned. During dinner, I met the rest of the staff, 6 counselors in total, including me, plus the director and the cook, an older woman named Martha, who didn't talk much. The other counselors, Jake, Lisa, 23, third summer, Ryan, 22, first summer like me, Emma, 24, second summer, and David, 26, first summer. Director Wallace presided over the table, observing rather than participating in the conversation. The children arrive tomorrow, he announced. First 2-week session, 40 children in total. The 6 of you will be responsible for keeping them safe, entertained, and disciplined. Any problems, report them immediately. His eyes scanned each of us. And remember, what happens at Evergreen Pines stays at Evergreen Pines. Absolute discretion with the parents. We don't want to alarm them unnecessarily. Unnecessarily? Why would he put it that way? That night, lying in my bunk, I listened to Jake snoring below. Outside the window, the forest was an impenetrable black mass. No city lights, no traffic noise, just silence and darkness. I felt completely disconnected from the world. Part of me found that unsettling. Another part thought Jake was right. It was liberating. The children arrived in yellow buses at 10 a.m. Parents didn't come to drop their kids off here. The camp was too remote. The kids were loud, excited, full of energy. I was assigned 8 to cabin 4. I helped them settle in, established ground rules, tried to remember names. Everything seemed normal, a standard summer camp. The first week was exhausting but manageable. Activities from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Hiking, swimming in the lake, arts and crafts, campfires. The kids were mostly good, some were troublesome, but nothing I couldn't handle. The other counselors were friendly, helpful. Director Wallace showed up occasionally, watching from the shadows before disappearing. On Friday of the first week, Ryan didn't show up for breakfast. "Where's Ryan?" I asked Lisa as we served cereal to the kids. "He left last night," she replied casually. "It wasn't for him. He asked the director to take him to town." "In the middle of the night?" "Well, early in the morning, like 5 a.m. The director is flexible about these things. If someone wants to leave, he doesn't hold them back." She continued serving as if nothing had happened. That was strange. Why leave at 5 a.m. without saying goodbye? I looked for the director after breakfast. He was in his office, writing in a notebook. "Director Wallace, I heard Ryan left." "That's right. He decided the job wasn't for him. I took him to the bus station this morning." His voice was neutral. He didn't say goodbye to anyone. He was embarrassed. Some young people are like that. They don't like to admit they can't handle something. He closed the notebook. "Anyway, now we need to reassign his kids. You and Jake will take care of cabin 7 in addition to your own. Aren't they bringing in a replacement?" "He's on his way. He'll arrive on Monday." He smiled. "Don't worry. Everything is under control." On Monday, a new guy arrived. His name was Ben, 23 years old, shy. During his first lunch, I tried to strike up a conversation. "How did you hear about this job?" "Online ad. I applied and they accepted me quickly." He picked at his food. Although it was weird, there was no real interview, just a confirmation email. Just like me. "And when you arrived, did they have your record?" He looked at me confused. "No. The director said there was an administrative error, but that he would give me the job anyway." He paused. "Why? Did it happen to you too?" "Yes." A chill ran down my spine. 2 hires without a record. Coincidence. That night, I tried to use the landline in the office. I wanted to call my sister, to know that everything was okay outside. The office door was locked. Strange. I knocked. The director opened it, blocking the entrance with his body. "Chris, do you need something?" I wanted to use the phone to call my family. "The phone is out of service. Last week's storm damaged the lines." There had been no storm. "It should be repaired in a few days. Is it urgent?" "No, I just wanted to say hello." "I understand, but remember, we are here to focus on the children. External distractions can affect your performance." He patted me on the shoulder. "After the season, you'll have all the time in the world to reconnect with your family." He closed the door. I walked away with a knot in my stomach. The phone wasn't broken. I had seen him using it that morning. I heard him talking to someone. He had lied through his teeth. The second week, Emma disappeared. Same story. She left last night. It wasn't for her. No one seemed surprised except Ben and me. Don't you think it's weird? I whispered to Jake during a campfire. 2 people leaving without saying goodbye, in the middle of the night. It happens all the time, Chris. You get used to it. His tone was condescending. Some people aren't cut out for this. It's isolated, it's hard. I don't blame them for leaving. But isn't it strange that the director always takes them away in the early hours of the morning? He's being considerate. He doesn't want to cause a scene in front of the kids. Imagine if they said goodbye in tears or something. The kids would worry. Jake looked at me seriously. You're overthinking it. Relax. Maybe he was right. Maybe I was being paranoid. But that night, I couldn't sleep. I got up at 2 a.m., intending to get some water from the kitchen. As I passed the window, I saw light in the director's office, and voices, talking quietly but intensely. I crept up to the window. The director was inside with someone I couldn't see clearly. You can't just leave whenever you want. You signed a contract. The director's voice was firm, an inaudible response. I don't care. We have a replacement coming tomorrow. Stay 1 more week, and then we'll discuss it. More murmurs. That's not negotiable. The conversation ended. I hid behind a tree when the door opened. David came out. His face was tense, scared. He walked quickly to his cabin without looking back. The next day, David acted normal during breakfast. But I watched him. He avoided eye contact with the director. During a swimming activity, I pulled him aside. Are you okay? I saw you talking to Wallace last night. I'm fine. His voice was tense. I just wanted to talk about my contract. I thought I could leave early, but I can't. He looked at me desperately. Chris, did you read your contract before signing it? Not completely. Why? Me neither. But then I asked for it to review it. He lowered his voice. There's a clause, minimum commitment of 6 weeks. If you leave early, you have to pay a penalty of $10,000 for breach of contract and damages to the program. My blood ran cold. $10,000, that's impossible. No one would pay that. Exactly, it's a trap. They've got us. His hands were shaking. I tried to negotiate with Wallace, but he says the contract is binding. I can't leave without paying, and I don't have that kind of money. Neither do I. My mind was racing. But what about Ryan and Emma? Did they pay? I don't know. Wallace says they made private arrangements, but David looked around nervously. I don't think they paid. I don't think they left at all. What do you mean? Did you see their cars? They were still in the parking lot after they supposedly left. I checked this morning. Ryan's car is still there. Emma's too. Horror settled like lead in my stomach. Are you saying they're still here? Or worse? David walked away before I could ask any more questions. That night, I checked the parking lot. He was right. 4 cars. Mine, Jake's, Lisa's, and one more that I recognized as Emma's. I remembered the band sticker on the back window. Where were Ryan and David's cars? No, David was still here. Just Ryan's. Unless Ryan never had a car. But the job ad said, own transportation required. How had he gotten there then? I returned to my cabin with more questions than answers. Jake was already asleep. I opened my backpack, looking for my copy of the contract. It wasn't there. I checked all my papers. Nothing. The director had taken it after I signed. For processing, he had said. He never gave me a copy. I couldn't just sit around doing nothing. The next morning, during the children's free time, I slipped into the office. The door was open. Empty. I went in quickly, searching the filing cabinets. I found a folder marked Personnel Active. Inside, 6 folders with names: Jake, Lisa, David, Ben, and Chris. Mine. I opened mine. It contained my signed contract. I read it carefully. Clause 7. The employee commits to a minimum period of employment of 6 weeks. Early termination without just cause will result in a penalty of $10,000 USD for breach of contract. Clause 12. The employee waives any legal claim against Camp Eternal Pines and its management for any incident occurring during employment, including but not limited to physical injury, psychological trauma, or death. Death? What kind of camp includes death in an employment contract? Clause 15. This contract is confidential. The employee may not discuss its terms with outside parties under penalty of lawsuit for breach of confidentiality. I was reading more when I heard footsteps. I quickly put the contract away and closed the file cabinet. Too late. Director Wallace appeared in the doorway. "Chris, what are you doing here?" His voice was dangerously calm. "I was looking for paper for an activity with the kids. The paper is in the supply closet, not in my office." He moved closer. "Were you snooping through my files?" "No, I was just..." "Don't lie." His face was inches from mine. "I know you read your contract. David told you to ask, didn't he?" He smiled without humor. "David is causing trouble. He'll be transferred soon." "Transferred? Where?" "That's none of your concern." He pushed me toward the door. "Go back to your kids. And Chris, I suggest you stop asking questions. The job is simple. Take care of the kids for 6 weeks. Get your paycheck, go home. Don't complicate things." I left, trembling. That night, David didn't show up for dinner. Jake said casually. David left. He finally sorted things out with the director. But his car was still in the parking lot. Ben came to see me later. "Chris, something is very wrong here. David told me this afternoon that he had a plan to leave. He was going to walk through the woods until he found a road or a house. He said he would come back with help if he made it." His eyes were red. "He didn't come back, and now they say he's officially gone, but his backpack is still in his cabin, his clothes, everything." "Did you check his room?" "Yes, quickly before anyone saw me. Everything is there except him." That night, we waited until everyone was asleep. Ben and I snuck into David's cabin. Sure enough, his belongings were intact. Clothes on the bunk, backpack with laptop, wallet with ID through and credit cards in the drawer. No one who leaves voluntarily leaves their wallet behind. "We have to get out of here," Ben whispered. "Tonight. We take our things and run. We're responsible for the kids, we can't abandon them. And stay until we disappear too? Chris, this place is a trap. I don't know what happens to people who leave, but they obviously don't really leave." He was right. But before we could plan anything, we heard footsteps. We hid in the closet. The door opened. Director Wallace entered with another man I didn't recognize. He was heavy-set and wore overalls. "Here," Wallace said, pointing to David's bunk. "Pack everything up. Burn it in the incinerator like the others." The man nodded and began stuffing clothes into trash bags. Ben and I stood frozen in the closet, holding our breath. "Burn David's belongings, like the others." "What about the new kid arriving tomorrow?" the man asked in a deep voice. "I've already confirmed his arrival." "Chris Donovan." My name. Was I expecting a second Chris Donovan? "We need to keep the numbers stable, 6 monitors at all times. When one leaves, another comes in." "Did this one sign without reading too?" "Of course, they all do. They need the money, they're desperate. They don't read the clauses, and once they sign, they're ours for at least 6 weeks." Wallace laughed. "Or longer if they don't cooperate." "What do we do with the ones who resist? Like that David guy. David is in Sector C with the other 2, working off his debt. Eventually he'll give in or, well, you know how it ends." They finished packing. "Make sure nothing is left behind. The new ones can't know about the previous ones." They left. Ben and I waited 10 minutes before coming out of the closet. We looked at each other, terrified. Sector C. What's that? And working off their debt. The other 2, Ryan and Emma? We had to find out, but we also needed to be careful. The director knew I had been snooping. If I disappeared now, it would be obvious. For the next 2 days, I pretended everything was normal. I smiled, took care of the kids, followed the routine. But at night, Ben and I explored. We found a path behind the dining room that led deeper into the woods. Following it for 20 minutes, we came to a clearing with a small old cabin. "Sector C," said a rusty sign. We approached. Windows with bars, door with a heavy lock. From inside, faint voices. "Hello?" I whispered at the window. A figure approached. It was David, emaciated, in dirty clothes. "Chris, Ben, get us out of here." Behind him, two more figures, Ryan and Emma, all alive but prisoners. "What happened?" I asked urgently. "We tried to leave. Wallace caught us and put us here. He says we have to work for 6 weeks cutting wood, cleaning, tasks that will pay off our debt since we can't afford the contract penalty. But," David broke down, "it's been 3 weeks and he won't let us go. He says we haven't worked enough. I think he plans to keep us here indefinitely. And no one knows you're here? Your families?" Wallace sent emails from our account saying we quit and would be traveling offline for a while. No one suspects anything. My mind was racing. We're going to get them out. We just need a plan. But we didn't have time. Flashlight beams from the trail. "Someone's coming," Ben hissed. We ran into the woods, hiding behind trees. Wallace appeared with the burly man. They were carrying food and water. They opened the lock, went in, closed it. We heard muffled shouting, then silence. They came out 5 minutes later. "The new ones are working out well," Wallace said. "Jake and Lisa are loyal veterans. Ben is still malleable. But Chris," my name again, "Chris is asking too many questions. We need to speed him up. Do you want me to transfer him now?" "No. Wait until Friday. I don't want to scare the kids with another sudden disappearance. We'll say he quit, and his replacement is coming on Saturday. It's already confirmed. My replacement, another Chris Donovan." What? Were there other people with my name applying? Or was Wallace using fake names? We hurried back to the main camp. Jake was awake in my cabin. "Where were you?" His tone was accusatory. "Night walk. I couldn't sleep." "Don't lie. I saw you leave with Ben. Did you go to Sector C?" His face was hard. "Chris, you need to understand something. This is a job. We do what the director says. We don't ask questions. Those who ask questions end up..." He paused. "End up what?" "Prisoners in a cabin." Jake sighed. "Look, it's not ideal. But we signed contracts. If we can't pay the penalty, we have to comply in other ways. It's legal. Holding people against their will is not legal. It's kidnapping." "Lower your voice." Jake moved closer, threateningly. "Wallace has lawyers. The contract is solid. And if you try to expose this, he'll sue you for breach of confidentiality. You'll lose everything. Besides..." He paused. "No one will believe you. You have no proof. And your parents signed authorizations too, remember? On the application form. They authorized you to work here under any circumstances. They're legally complicit." My world fell apart. My parents had signed something. I didn't remember them filling out any forms. Unless the confirmation email. Maybe it had a link with terms they accepted without knowing. "How long have you really been here, Jake?" I asked, my voice trembling. 3 years. He said it without emotion. "My first summer was the summer of 2021. I tried to leave. They caught me. I worked off my debt. Then Wallace offered me a permanent position as a senior monitor in exchange for good pay and discretion. I accepted. It's better than the alternative." "What alternative?" "Those who don't cooperate eventually really disappear. Wallace has contacts. People who make problems disappear." Jake climbed into his bunk. "I suggest you obey. You have 4 weeks left. Survive them. Go home. Forget what you saw." I didn't sleep. At dawn, I looked for Ben. He was panicking. Jake threatened me too. He says if we talk, we'll end up worse than David. He was crying. "Chris, I don't want to die here." "We're not going to die. We're going to escape. Today." I checked my car. Flat tires. All 4 of them. I checked Ben's. Same thing. Lisa must have done it during the night. Plan B. We'll walk. 4 hours on the dirt road to the main highway. We can do it. What about the kids? The kids have parents who will come pick them up in 2 weeks. They'll be fine. It was a lie. I didn't know if they would be fine, but we couldn't save them if we were trapped too. We packed light. At 2 p.m. during free time, we slipped into the woods. We followed the dirt road I had come in on. We walked fast, almost running. 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours. Then we heard the engine. A truck was coming after us. Wallace was driving. Lisa was in the passenger seat. They sped up. We ran off the road into the woods. It was useless. They caught up with us in minutes. Wallace blocked our path. Chris, Ben. Where are you going? He smiled. Breach of contract, clause 9. Abandonment of post without authorization. Additional penalty of $5,000. He got out of the truck. The burly man got out of the back seat. Don't make this any harder. You can't keep us here. This is illegal, I shouted. Read your contract, Chris. It's all legal. Your signature authorizes it. He took out a document. My contract. He turned to a page. Clause 18 in small print. In the event of a legal dispute, the employee agrees to private arbitration with an arbitrator selected by the employer. There is no right to a public trial. Clause 22. The employee acknowledges that they may be required to remain on the premises beyond the initial period if there are outstanding contractual debts. You tricked me. Nobody reads that. Ignorance is no legal defense. You signed it. It's binding. He grabbed my arm. Now go back before I add more weeks to your stay. They took us back. Not to Sector C. Worse. To a basement under the main cabin that I didn't know existed. Small cells. They separated us. Me alone in one. Dirt floor. Concrete walls. A cot. A bucket. Reflection. Wallace called it. 3 days here to reconsider your attitude. Then you go back to work, with 6 additional weeks of service for your escape attempt. The door closed. Total darkness. Time blurred. They brought food once a day. Bread, water. Absolute silence between deliveries. My mind began to fragment. How many days had passed? 3, 5. Without natural light, without a clock, I lost count. Finally, the door opened. Wallace. Did you learn your lesson? Yes. A lie, but I needed to get out of there. Good. Ben has learned his lesson too. You'll be back tomorrow with the kids. And Chris. He leaned in. Your replacement arrives in 3 days. Another young man desperate for work who won't read the contract. It's your turn to teach him the ropes. Show him how things work around here. My replacement, but I'm still here. We need to rotate staff. You'll be graduating to other roles. More permanent ones. Like Jake. He smiled. Congratulations. You're being promoted. He took me back to my cabin. Jake was there, setting up an extra bunk. Your apprentice arrives on Friday, he said without looking at me. His name is Chris Donovan. Fresh out of college, needs money. Perfect candidate. He paused. Like you were 3 weeks ago. My brain made the horrible connection. You guys recruit people with the same names, so you can reuse documents. Common names work best. There are thousands of Chris Donovans in the country. If one disappears, another can take his place in the records. No one really cares. Jake finally looked at me. Welcome to the permanent team. That night, I tried to process everything. I was trapped. The contract was apparently legal, or ambiguous enough for Wallace to defend himself. My attempt to escape had cost me more time, and now they would turn me into one of them, a facilitator of the system that had trapped me. Ben was in his cabin, equally defeated. We met briefly in the empty dining room. What do we do? He whispered. I don't know, but if we stay, we'll become Jake, Lisa, perpetuating this. What if we leave again? They'll catch us, or worse. I remembered Jake's words about really disappearing. We need evidence, something to take to the police when we finally get out. photos, documents, something. Over the next few days, I stole what I could. I photographed my contract with a disposable camera I found in the warehouse. Without a cell phone, it was the only thing available. I took photos of Sector C from a distance. I wrote everything down in a diary hidden under my mattress. On Friday, the new Chris Donovan arrived. Blonde hair, 22 years old, nervous smile. Just like me 3 weeks ago, Wallace gave him the same speech. Administrative error, no record, but we'll give you the job. The guy signed without reading. I was assigned to orient him, show him the camp, teach him the rules. My stomach churned. I was participating in his capture. But what other choice did I have? If I resisted, I would go back to the basement, or worse. During the tour, the new Chris asked, "Why is there no cell phone signal? Isn't that dangerous in case of emergencies?" "There's a landline in the office," I replied mechanically. The same words Jake had said to me, the cycle perpetuating itself. What about the previous staff? Was there a lot of turnover? Some can't stand the isolation. They leave. Lies flowing easily now. I was disgusted with myself. That night, while the new Chris slept in his bunk, I looked for the documents I had hidden. My plan: survive the remaining weeks, eventually be released, if Wallace actually released anyone, and then contact the authorities with evidence. Slow, but the only option. I went to look for my diary under the mattress. It was gone. I searched frantically. The photos were gone too. Someone had taken them. Wallace. Obviously. He confirmed it the next day during a private chat. "Chris, I found some interesting material in your cabin, unauthorized documentation." He had my diary and photos on his desk. Breach of confidentiality. Clause 15. That adds, he calculated, another 6 weeks and a $3,000 fine. "This is ridiculous. You can't keep adding time." "I can, and I do. Read your contract. Each violation accumulates time." He took out a calculator. "Let's see. 6 original weeks, plus 6 for attempted escape, plus 6 for documentation, plus an $18,000 penalty total that you can't pay. Working at minimum wage, you have..." He pressed numbers. 2 years, approximately. 2 years. I was stuck here for 2 years. My mind broke. I started laughing hysterically. Wallace watched with clinical interest. "Or," he continued, "you accept the promotion. You join the permanent staff. Decent salary, private room, unlimited food, and we wipe your debts. Like Jake, like Lisa. You just cooperate. Help with new recruits. Keep the system running. What do you say?" I looked out the window. I saw the new Chris playing with children, unaware of his fate. I saw Ben cleaning tables, defeated. I saw Jake supervising activities, empty smile. I saw my future, perpetuating the cycle that had destroyed me. "How many?" I asked in a dead voice. "How many Chris Donovans have there been?" "You're the third. The previous 2 weren't good candidates for permanent staff. They had to be removed." His tone was casual, as if discussing the weather. "But you have potential. Intelligent, observant, perfect for helping to manage the next group. What if I refuse? 2 years of manual labor, or we can come to other arrangements. More permanent." The threat was clear. I had no choice. "I accept." "Excellent." He pulled out a new contract. "Sign here. This makes you permanent staff. 30,000 annual salary plus bonuses for each successful new hire. And Chris," he handed me a pen, "welcome to the management team." I signed with trembling hands, my name on the line, sealing my complicity. That night they moved me to a separate cabin, private room, better bed, even a small refrigerator. Jake visited me. "You did well. Now you understand how it works." He sat on my new bed. "Some take longer to accept it. You were quick." "Did you ever really try to leave?" "At first. Then I realized there's nothing out there. Low-paying jobs, expensive rent, miserable lives. Here I have purpose, community, stability. It's better than the alternative." He said it as if he really believed it. Maybe after 3 years, he did. What about those in Sector C? Eventually, they'll cooperate or they'll be transferred. Wallace has contacts with other camps in the network. Yes, there are more places like this, a complete system. We exchange problem employees as needed. Jake stood up. Get some rest. Tomorrow your real training begins. The next day, Wallace showed me the entire system. There were files on dozens of former employees, names, contracts, accumulated debts, a system perfectly designed to trap desperate people. The contracts were complex enough to be legally defensible if anyone tried to sue, and the confidentiality clauses ensured that no one would speak out without risking being sued into ruin. Parents pay $5,000 per session, Wallace explained. With 40 kids per session, 6 sessions per summer. That's $1.2 million annually. The monitors cost next to nothing. Cheap food. Facilities already paid for. 80% profit margin. He smiled. And best of all, the counselors we catch eventually recruit others, consciously or unconsciously. It's self-sustaining. He showed me the next file. Arrival confirmed for Monday. Ben Thompson, 23 years old. Replacement for your friend Ben, who, well, had an unfortunate accident. My blood ran cold. What happened to Ben? He tried to escape again, this time by the lake. He drowned. Tragic. He said it without emotion. But we already have his replacement. Ben was dead. My friend, who just wanted to work for a summer, was dead. And I was here, alive, because I agreed to cooperate. Do you understand now the importance of cooperating? Wallace asked. Those who resist don't end well. Those who cooperate thrive, like you, like Jake, like Lisa. He leaned in. You will be responsible for orienting the new ones, teaching them the ropes, making sure they fit in. If you succeed, bonuses. If you fail, well, you'll be back in the basement. That night, I checked the complete staff list on his computer while he was busy with the children. I found my name in a column titled Permanent Staff, Active, and below that, a list of names in another column, Confirmed Replacements. The first name, Chris Donovan. Arrival, Monday, July 6th. The new Chris III, who would replace the current Chris who replaced me. The cycle would continue. A perpetual Chris Donovan, rotating every few weeks, no one knowing that there were multiple people using the same name at different times. And I, the second Chris Donovan, was now permanent staff. My identity absorbed by the system. My name reused for others. My existence reduced to a role in an exploitation machine. I looked at my reflection in the dark window. I didn't recognize the boy staring back at me. He was thinner, haggard, defeated. The Chris Donovan who arrived 3 weeks ago no longer existed. In his place was a facilitator of the system that destroyed him. Jake was right about one thing. There was nothing waiting for me outside. My parents thought I was happy here. Wallace sent emails from my account regularly. My friends had moved on with their lives. No one would look for me. No one would know that the Chris Donovan working at this camp was not the same Chris Donovan who originally applied. On Monday, the new Ben arrived. I oriented him with the same lies they had told me. It's a great place. A little isolated, but you get used to it. I saw the enthusiasm in his eyes. The same ignorance I had, and I felt nauseous. That night, in my private room, I wrote in a new journal, this time with no intention of using it as evidence, just to keep my sanity. My name is Chris Donovan. I am 22 years old. I arrived at Camp Evergreen 3 weeks ago looking for work. I didn't know I was signing my life away. I didn't know I would become a cog in the system that trapped me. Now I have recruited another boy, knowing his fate. I have condemned him with my silence. What have I become? Answer. A link in the chain. The cycle continues. Chris Donovan recruits Ben Thompson, who will eventually recruit another, who will recruit another. And Wallace watches from his office, counting his money, adding names to lists, perpetuating his perfect machine of exploitation. There is no escape. only acceptance or death. I chose acceptance. May God forgive me. I closed the diary. Outside, I heard children laughing and playing. Inside Sector C, prisoners were suffering. In the basement, perhaps someone else was in reflection. And I, in my comfortable room with my personal refrigerator, was now part of the system. An executioner, a facilitator, a monster with a recycled name. I looked at the calendar on the wall. Monday, July 6th, circled in red. New Chris Donovan, arrival confirmed. The cycle continued, eternally, like the pine trees that surrounded this cursed place, and I was now the gardener who kept them alive.